Very good morning to you. This is the Newsroom Show. We are with you until midday today. Myself, Elvis, President, and Kendall Makamati. Morning, Elvis.
Good morning, Evan. How are you?
Yeah. Good. Let's get into our work. We've got a big show today, actually. Interesting stuff. We've got a whistleblower around this whole, well, the Competition Commission, of course, is planning to prosecute more than a dozen international and local banks for alleged collusion in foreign currency trading, Elvis.
It's all about the money, Evan, and tracing that money and finding that money and making sure that people pay. So we're asking the question to you. It's on your screen right now. What sanction do you think should the banks face that are found guilty of collusion and even manipulating the rand? That is the question we pose to you. Please let us know on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page.
Yeah, we've got a whistleblower in today. We've got the Competition Commission who's going to give us the latest update as to where they are. Of course, this matter is moving to the Competition Tribunal. But we're also running a poll today. Interesting. There's been a lot of hate thrown towards Trevor Noah on social media for paying 130 million rand for an apartment in New York.
In Manhattan, I tell you what, in the thick of things, there's Trevor Noah. So we're asking you criticism of Trevor Noah paying 130 million rand for that apartment. Is it fair or is it unfair? So 90% of you say
it's unfair. Monwabisi says, what? 130 million rand is a lot of money. Yes, it's a lot of moolah, my friend.
It's all about the money. Temba says it's unfair because he worked hard and get what he have he have now. Trevor Noah.
Shiapana says it's unfair because he's working very hard to get what he have now. So there is no need to blame him.
Yeah, no criticism for Trevor. Luvo says Trevor is becoming arrogant and fake.
Yeah. Is there going to be a Trevor Noah Foundation that's doing charitable work in South Africa? Is one of the questions people have been asking. Do we do charity? Yeah, or do we need other people to come and do charity here for us?
Well, it's all about the money today, Evan. Money, money, money. My grandmother used to say that's the root of all evil.
Yeah.
But let's get down to business now. Take a look at your headlines. Major routes in Pretoria are affected as truck drivers embark on a protest against Eskom's decision to stop granting them coal transport contracts. Minimum wage and the Health Ombudsman's report on Gauteng's health tragedy are expected to feature prominently when the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa replies to oral questions in the National Assembly today. And Social Development Minister Bathabile Dlamini is expected to brief the media on the Sasa debacle, a very important story, also talking about the money. We'll keep track of that story and we'll bring you updates on that too. But right now, before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Kendall?
Elvis, very interesting. So we've got a match on the go. It's a moving target, but we're going to try to stay on top of that throughout the morning. It's a match out in Hamilton, Eben. We've been chatting about it prior to the bulletin starting. Very interesting stuff going on out there.
Yeah, very interesting. Actually, South Africa looks like they're under a little bit of pressure. New Zealand have replied well to, needing 280 to win, I think.
That is right. They're needing 280 to win. They've only lost 2 wickets so far. And I think let's dip in quickly to see exactly what's going on out there in Hamilton at Seddon Park. Just have a quick look-see to see what's happening. Here we go.
Been around a long time. Let's win this game. Let us win this game because hundreds.
Yeah, one would have hoped that our frontline attack would have taken care of him a little sooner, a little earlier, but they have put up a very stiff challenge to the Proteas, and we will stay on top of that throughout the course of the morning. And this is what's happening out in Seddon Park in Hamilton. But we've also got a whole lot of other sports on the go. This is what else is coming up in the sports today.
Games that they're playing today. Whoa, turn me back. Turn me back.
The match between Mamelodi Sundowns and Chippa United will be resumed at 10 a.m. this morning at the Loftus Versfeld Stadium after power failure caused it to be abandoned.
Given the situation, I think we can't go beyond what South Africa can afford at the present moment. Unfortunately.
The Minister of Sports, Fikile Mbalula, announces that South Africa and Durban might not end up hosting the Commonwealth Games 2022 after all, as the budget becomes a sticking point. Now, all this and more we've got for you later on in the Sports Bulletin. The show sure to stick around for it. But do stay with us because Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. And as you know, it ended there, of course, with the minister saying that we might lose the Commonwealth Games. Well, money problems, it all ties in back to the money. We'll keep you updated on that. Now, top story this morning. Pretoria Metro Police are desperately trying to negotiate with truck drivers who are protesting against Eskom's decision to stop granting them coal transport contracts. Major traffic disruptions are continuing in the city of Pretoria, where routes including the N1, the N4, the N14, as well as the R21 are affected. Pretoria motorists are frustrated as they experience major traffic disruptions. Trucks have been parked from the Nalmapius turnoff up to Solomon Mashlangu Drive on the N21. Now, for the latest on the story, let's now join our reporter Sipho Stierman, who's on the ground in Pretoria. Very good morning to you, Sipho. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Alvin.
Very good morning. It sounds very noisy there, but can you tell us and bring us up to speed what is happening there?
Well, indeed, it is noisy because we are next to the Ben Schoeman Freeway, that is the N14 from Johannesburg heading to Pretoria, where this morning traffic was very congested due to the protest by the truck drivers. And as we can see right now, it's getting a little bit better. There is a bit of movement. I'm going to just step out of the way. As it's heading straight to Pretoria, there is congestion as we're about to reach the Earfus off-ramp and heading into the capital city. There's lots of congestion, and you can see, if the camera can just go to those visuals, a lot of cars are now making a U-turn, realizing that it is going to take quite some time to get to Pretoria. Lots of vehicles are now turning and joining the other side, which is the side from Pretoria heading to Johannesburg, where there is less congestion on the road. Of course, all of these U-turns are not necessarily safe because there's oncoming traffic, and chances of an accident happening in this situation are quite high. But it seems that some of the drivers' patience has run out. We've been here this morning since 6 in the morning, and I've been telling you a lot of drivers have been on this road for quite some time, so you can understand the frustration of some of the drivers right now.
Who is actually protesting, and what are they protesting for?
Well, Elvis, we just got, obviously this march was planned well in advance, but what was not planned here is the truck drivers are blocking the freeways heading to Pretoria. And it's not just the N14, but the R21 and various freeways here. And as I understand, I do have the statement with me here that the people that are doing that is the Coal Transportation Forum that has organized this march. And in their press release, they're saying that they are marching against government recent announcement that it is going to enter into a multi-billion rand deals with independent power suppliers. And these independent power suppliers, of course, will be supplying renewable energy to Eskom. And according to this statement by the Coal Transportation Forum, they're saying that this will lead to major job cuts. About 30,000 jobs will be lost in some of the coal mines, and they are demanding that government should scale down, or rather slow down, signing on these renewable energy contracts with these independent power suppliers. So what they're doing right now is that they will be going to the Union building to put forward their list of grievances. I do have some here, if I can just take a look. They're saying that many towns in Limpopo and Mpumalanga who rely on coal mines will become ghost towns. So they're really painting a picture that these independent power suppliers, that IPPs they call it, that government is signing deals for renewable energy with, is going to lead to a breakdown, or rather a crumble of the coal mining industry, leading to many job cuts. And they want government to slow down the implementation of this program and take into consideration the jobs of many that will be affected by such a move. And that is why we have the protest here this morning.
Now, Sipho, we see the traffic is moving there behind you. It seems like the authorities are taking care of that now. Are they now going to, the trucks, are they moving now to the Union buildings?
Well, initially the plan was that they would gather at an approved location in Pretoria where they would be parking the trucks there, but then they would then proceed to the Union Building using other modes of transportation that are not trucks, obviously for traffic reasons. That is what the Tshwane Metropolis had approved, but obviously then the forum, the Coal Transportation Forum, then blindsided the Metropolis, if I can say so. That is the language of the spokesperson, Isaac Mahamba, Metro Tshwane spokesperson, saying they were blindsided by this move this morning of the truck drivers driving from the nearby provinces coming through here using major highways and causing traffic. But the plan was not for them to do that. The plan was for the trucks to be parked at one location, and then they can use other mode of transportation to go to the Union Building to hand over that memorandum of grievances to the presidency. But obviously we now know from this morning experience that has not happened. But of course the march is still going ahead a little bit later this morning, where they will be marching to the Union Buildings and handing over that list of grievances. But we do understand now, we're getting reports that some of the trucks are starting to park there at the Pretoria Patco old bus depot, where there is a gathering point for this protest to the Union Buildings.
Super Stilman, thank you so much for that update. Let's move on now. The case against the Fees Must Fall leader at the Durban University of Technology, Bonginkosi Kanyile, will be heard in the Constitutional Court today. Now, the court will hear an urgent application for leave to appeal against an order of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which dismissed Kanyile's application for special leave to appeal. In February 2016, he was charged with several counts related to an illegal gathering and released on a warning. He was then arrested later in 2016 and refused bail in the Durban Magistrates Court. The High Court also dismissed Kanyile's appeal. Bonginkosi Kanyile has been in custody for 5 months now. He is the last student still in jail after last year's unrest at campuses nationwide. He's facing charges of incitement to commit violence, possession of explosives, public violence and trespassing. Kanyile will argue whether it is in the interest of justice to deny him bail. He will also argue that the magistrate placed undue emphasis on his alleged past conduct, particularly the criticism that he breached the warning conditions of February the 5th, 2016, when he was first arrested. He will also argue that his rights to a fair trial were violated by a failure to conduct an inquiry into whether he had breached the warning conditions. Transport Minister Dipuo Peters is yet to comment about the latest boardroom drama at the scandal-prone passenger rail agency of South Africa, Prasa. The Prasa board has appointed a new acting CEO following its decision to axe Collins Letsoalo, who was seconded by the Minister Peters. This followed a damning report by a Sunday newspaper that Letsoalo had hiked his own salary by 350% to 5.9 million rand.
Yesterday, Collins Letsoalo denied hiking his salary and said it had been approved by the board of Prasa. But board chair Popo Molefe denies that.
It was not brought to the board for approval, and in any event, the board would not have approved the package of 5.9 million.
The board has appointed Company Secretary Lindekaya Zide as the new acting CEO. Popo Molefe says the board is yet to discuss the latest goings-on with the Minister of Transport, who is the government shareholder of the parastatal.
I have not been able to talk to the minister per se. I tried several times to call her, but I've been talking to her advisor, obviously, it's a political advisor. We are addressing a letter to the minister today, but the board is the accounting authority of Prasa, and you can't have a situation where the board can't make decisions because it is unable to reach the minister.
Trade Union Satawi is not impressed.
During the current sitting of the board, there's been 3 CEOs already, and they've come and gone. But what's happened is, you know, the organization has in the meantime deteriorated. You will know that Prasa is not financially stable right now. We are worried about the fact that, you know, the modernization program doesn't seem to have been much progress there. Nothing is happening. We're also worried, but in the meantime, what's happened is there's been a spike in delays in trains, and there's also been a spike in the accident rate. You'll recall that last week there was one where 100 people were injured.
Prasa says it's already looking for a permanent CEO and hopes to make the appointment by the end of this month. Mbongeni Muchwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi and opposition leader Alfonso Dhlakama have started discussions with the aim of extending the ceasefire, which is due to expire next month. The Electoral Commission of Mozambique is gearing up for what it believes will be a challenging election in 2018. The ruling party Frelimo is expecting to face tough competition from the opposition Renamo. Foreign Affairs editor Sophie Mukwena and camera person Tabiso Rapukwana visited Mozambique.
Mozambique, a country once ravaged by war, rebuilding the economy of the country and the politics is ongoing. The country is to hold local government elections next year to elect representatives of the cold face of delivery.
We have a very weak system of information between the institutions. Many people die, many people move from one province to another province, many people maybe go from the country to another country, and the voters' role remain not actual. The voters' role should be again reinvented or remade. Now, that's why we have to do for all the elections a new registration process. The other thing is that the political parties also, they demand that. They want to see a new registration process.
Opposition party Renamo, which boycotted the last local government elections, is expected to participate.
They are now, as everybody says in Renamo party, they are now preparing themselves for the next local elections. And MDM, because they have won 4 very important cities in the country, they also don't want to lose those cities. And it is a very big challenge for Frelimo as the ruling party to conquer those cities, big cities. That's why we feel that the next local elections will be very tough elections and very competitive, which is a good thing for the democracy, for the country.
Training the election staff will start this year. Sophie Mukwena, SABC News, Maputo, Mozambique.
Now, for the latest on the story, we are joined from Nelspruit by our SABC News reporter Mweli Masilela. Mweli, a very good morning to you. Can you give us an update? What is the latest there?
Good morning. I'm coming to you live from Mpumalanga. I can tell you the latest is that the president of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, announced yesterday the establishment of a committee that will be responsible for providing technical and financial support to the team of negotiators in Mozambique. You'll know that now it's taking another 10. It has been foreign negotiators before that are assisting the two parties, Renamo and Mozambique. And the Mozambican government to reach an agreement on the peace talks. But now it's only Mozambican people that have been put together to sort of make sure that this process goes on. You'll know that from the Frelimo side, there are constitutional experts that have been roped in to be part of this process. And then on the Renamo side, there have been veterans of the opposition party that have been roped in to be part of this process. So this is quite an important process if you consider the fact that these talks have been going on for quite some time now. But then both Renamo and the Mozambican government believe that it is time now that they use the local people in trying to resolve their problems rather than using people from foreign countries to resolve those issues. So that is the latest coming up from the side of Renamo and the Mozambican government.
Now, Mweli, we know that there's a ceasefire in place, but we also understand that there are tensions rising. We believe that the highway to the north has been closed. Is that still the case, or has that changed in the interim?
Well, you will know that even going up to the national elections in 2014, there was this low-level conflict between Renamo and the Mozambican government. Renamo, I will take you back, they were demanding that some of their members be incorporated into the Mozambican army. And also they were not happy with the structure of the National Election Commission of Mozambique, arguing that, or saying that there is more people representing the ruling party Frelimo in the National Elections Commission, and there is very few representing Renamo in the National Elections Commission. So those were the issues raised by Renamo going up to the 2014 local government elections. And you will know that also during those elections the results came out, and then Frelimo won the elections, but Renamo still was complaining to say that those elections were rigged, especially even now they are still saying that in fact there are some provinces that Renamo won and they want to rule those provinces. So those are the issues that will be talked to in terms of the peace talks that will be going on next week.
Mweli, thank you so much for that update. That was our report on the ground, Mweli Masilela there in Nelspruit. Now let's move on. Remember that we're also asking you, of course, a question today that's relating to the issues at hand that we're going to discuss today, looking at our theme, and that is on the issue of collusion and, of course, manipulating the rand. Let's take a look at that question. We're asking you, what sanctions do you think should the banks face for manipulating the rand? You can send us your comments to the hashtag at SABC Newsroom on the Twitter handle, as well as on the Facebook page. We'll take a look at some of those comments in a short while. Let's now continue and go over to Evan. In 2001, when the rand collapsed from 7 Rand 60 to 13 Rand 84 to the US dollar, the then Chief Executive Officer of the South African Business Chamber, SACOP, Kevin Wakeford, blew the whistle, accusing 3 big corporates and 1 global bank of being party to manipulation in the currency markets. Wakeford predicted that the rand was on its way to even 20 to even 40 and possibly even 50 Rand to the dollar, which would have thrown the 7-year-old democracy into economic and political turmoil. As a result of his intervention, the Rand Commission was then set up by the then President Thabo Mbeki to investigate the claims, and the rand's collapse was arrested and reversed. The Rand Commission was, however, shut down prematurely, and Wakeford was fired as the CEO of the South African Chamber of Business. He now joins us on the line from, in fact, in our Pretoria studio. So very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Do you feel vindicated 16 years later?
Elvis, you know, for me, it's not important about being vindicated or not. It's really about making sure the system works and ordinary people's savings and money and the transactions they conduct are performed in an honest and fair environment, you know. Mm-hmm. I think individuals are not as important as the collective and the total economy that we're trying to, you know, because it impacts on all of us at the end of the day if we have an unusually weak currency.
Now, we've now found that there's 17 banks that colluded in order to manipulate the rand. What do you make of this, and do you think that this can have far-reaching effect?
Well, firstly, hats off to the Competition Commission. They've conducted a major investigation over a number of years now, and they've now handed this matter over to the tribunal. But one must remember that this is limited at this stage anyway to the Competitions Act. In other words, anti-competitive behavior. But deeper, there, you know, if one has to really drill down, then there are other issues. There are issues of in my view, theft and fraud. Because if you have a fictitious price, it's an act of fraud. And if you are not if you're not paying what you should be paying for a particular currency, you're paying more for it, then it's theft, because somebody's benefiting, and ultimately it will benefit the bottom line of a particular bank or banks, and ordinary citizens are being nailed here, and that's not right.
Mm-hmm. How was the consumers then on the ground? How did that impact on them in terms of the rand escalating from just above 7 rand to about 13 rand?
Well, you can just imagine you would be paying almost double because the dollar is the aggregate currency, and all currencies trade against the dollar. So prices such as maize, cooking oil, flour, sugar, petrol, diesel, all those prices are dictated by the dollar. So if you have a weak rand, you pay more even for a local product. Mm-hmm. So for instance, maize, which is a major product in South Africa, the price is not set in Boorteville in the Free State. It's set in Chicago in the United States of America. So ordinary people end up having a diminished disposable income. And of course, all our balance sheets are affected because our balance sheets start shrinking in dollar terms, whether it be the value of our house or the value of other mobile assets we may own.
Now, at the point in time when you blew the whistle, the Rand Commission was established, but it was stopped prematurely. Why was that the case, you think, and what could have come out of that?
I think at that time the system, Elvis, was scared of the global environment. They were intimidated by international banks. They didn't want to scare off investors. And of course, I think there were people who were conflicted in the process. If one reads the late Barry Sargent's book, Assault on the Rand, if one also reads a number of articles written by him, he fingers certain commissioners, and he also fingers the Minister of Justice at that time for being conflicted. He, for instance, speaks to the former Minister of Justice being part of a major black economic empowerment deal with Sasa, and that was one of the companies fingered. He also speaks to the chairman of the commission, John Myburg, who was a corporate governance consultant to Sasa post facto after the Commission of Inquiry. And Mandla Ganshaw, the other commissioner, ended up being on the board of Sasa. So, you know, one can never prove all these things, but they seem awfully unusual that very powerful people who determined the future of that particular commission were all involved with one of the companies fingered. Mm-hmm. So, you know, just Christine Kunter, one of the commissioners, wrote a minority report which points to a requirement for further criminal investigations. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there was definitely something rotten there, and the rats were scurrying off the deck. But the problem today still exists. There's delinquency in the markets. The so-called King Code of corporate governance seemingly is absent. There isn't proper oversight in the banks. And we need to have a total relook at the financial services sector in South Africa.
Now, the Competition Commission has now referred this matter to the Competition Tribunal, which will mean there will be implications for these banks. Now, Citibank, one of the largest banks in the USA, they have come forward, and they obviously are going to pay a fine of 69,000 rand, 69 million rand rather. Some people are saying and suggesting that that is a slap on the wrist. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, there are billions of rands every day traded in the currency markets. So quite frankly, you know, 69 million, perhaps what they've allowed is that this particular bank has come forward and provided a large quantum of evidence, and perhaps that's why they've allowed that. I don't know. I think one needs to ask the Commission themselves. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I'm not even sure whether imposing fines of billions of rands will solve the problem. Yes, impose the fines, of course, but we need to get to the bottom of why this happens, because paying a fine is easy for a bank, because they're not, individuals aren't using their own money. They're using shareholder capital, they're using the profits from the very trades they made. So we need to look to other forms of sanction that will prevent this from happening again. One would be the withdrawal of currency trading licenses. Another could be that the CEO and the directors are brought to book, and that so-called rogue traders, and I don't like using that word because they seemingly want to hang out a few people to dry here and treat them as the rats. But at the end of the day, the institutional framework makes it easy for rats. And we need to deal with that framework and prevent these things from happening again. And my view is bring some people to book, including directors, and make sure that they are publicly censured for what they've done.
Do you think that right now, Mr. Wakeford, the banking clients can sleep easy?
Well, I don't think people in general trust the banks. I don't think they trust the financial services institutions. I don't believe the World Economic Forum status afforded to our banks. I think we need more banks. We need mutual banks. We need community banks. We need a state bank. We need lots of competition, and we need to hold these very monopolistic institutions accountable for what they're doing to our people.
I thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
That was the former CEO of the South African Chamber of Business, SACOP, and whistleblower, Kevin Wakeford. He's from our Pretoria studios.
That, of course, was a recorded interview. We recorded that interview yesterday. And, of course, what do you think? This is the question we ask you. What sanction should the banks face for manipulating the rand? We heard the whistleblower talk about billions and billions of rands being traded every single day. What are your views? Well, let's have a look at what you guys are telling us. Unati says the banks must be fined. Yes, Unati, they must be fined, but how much? And how much is proportionate to the benefits? The Sasa says, I think those should be held responsible and fined 30 million. Finish and clear. Well, that's a small number with regards to this. Mfundoyaki Shezi says they have to review the interest rate that they charge us and invest more in community development programs. That is our question. That's our question of the day to you. We want you guys to interact with us. We're going to talk to the Competition Commission about what is the latest with regards to the investigation. Unfortunately, they have now withdrawn at the last minute. But we have a whole host of content with regards to collusion amongst the banks and currency manipulation. Before we get there, though, let's take a look at what's trending on social media. Of course, the truck driver protest. That's the hashtag in Pretoria, where truck drivers who deliver coal to Eskom are striking for higher wages right now. Motorists are not happy, some pulling middle fingers at the truckers for making them late for work. Zinat Patel says the truck driver protest is an inconvenience. No electricity was inconvenient, and now transporters are no longer needed. Convenient, right? She says, yes, the people aren't happy. Maxwell Mohali says, when the traffic reporter on the radio announces that Pretoria is cancelled for today, I wonder if my boss is listening. Yes, that is, of course, what a lot of people felt while travelling there. Then, of course, the eyes right now are on the Proteas this morning as they continue the fourth ODI against New Zealand. Hashtag Protea Fire. They're under the pump a little bit. New Zealand lead less than 100 runs needed for victory there, with 8 wickets still standing. Then there we have the live pictures. Let's have a look. 186 for the loss of 2 wickets. Martin Gaptill is on 126 and Ross Taylor on 33 as they need, they need a further 90 runs, just over 90, 94 runs of 98 deliveries to win this match. Looks like it should be a win for New Zealand to level that series. Of course, today also marked Ash Wednesday, otherwise known as Lent. This is a period, of course, of fasting for Catholics ahead of the Easter celebrations. Then there's lots to talk about our much-loved comedian and the host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah. He's bought an apartment for about $10 million, or about 130 million rand. Some say that he should have given some of the money back to the poor in his home country, while others say, well, he's worked very hard for what he has. He should be able to enjoy that. Ayanda said, he's not Nesfas, not the government, and he does not owe us anything. Let the man enjoy his life, says Ayanda. Now, let's take a look at our picture of the day. This one comes from the Trump train. Now, of course, there was an interesting speech last night. This is what you have. Tonight will go down as a turning point in America. Here's how they reacted to the joint address speech. 57%. It's a shocking number, but very positive about it. 21% somewhat positive and 21% negative towards Donald Trump. Now, let's take a look at our tweet of the day. It's here on screen right now. It comes from Santiwa, the @Rosebud Dog, who says, Trevor Noah doesn't owe South Africans anything. If he wants to give back, he will. If not, cool. We are not his charity case. Of course, we're running that poll today where we ask, what do you think about 130 million rand that he's paid for that? Anyhow, let's have a look at the poll quickly. What are the numbers? 90% of you say criticism of Trevor Noah paying that money for his apartment is unfair. That's the sentiment. It's unfair. You can do with your money what you want. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in the courts. We'll start in Durban, where the case against Fees Must Fall leader at the Durban University of Technology, Bonginkosi Kanyile, is expected to be heard in the Constitutional Court today. The court will hear an urgent application for leave to appeal against an order of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which dismissed Kanyile's application for special leave to appeal. In February of 2016, he was charged with several counts related to an illegal gathering and released on a warning. He was then arrested later in 2016 and refused bail in the Durban Magistrates Court. Then, coming back to Johannesburg, 2 employees of the City of Johannesburg are expected to appear before the Johannesburg Specialized Commercial Crimes Court. Mildred Njordi and Micah Moyo have been charged with fraud and corruption. They're accused of having colluded with the applicants by removing outstanding traffic fines from the system in order to renew driver's licenses or license discs in exchange for bribes. Now, so far, 14 people have been arrested and have appeared in court, and more arrests are expected. We'll keep you updated on those and other stories. Time for us now to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about collusion between the banks. Don't go away.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
The South African Reserve Bank says it views the allegations of banks colluding in a serious light. This comes after the Competition Commission referred a collusion case to its tribunal for prosecution against 17 local and international banks. The banks are accused of colluding to fix the price of the rand. The Commission has been investigating a case of price fixing and market allocation in the trading of foreign currency pairs involving the rand since April 2015. It found that banks colluded from at least 2007. Now, the head of law at Monash, South Africa, Professor Tsepo Mongalo, says most of the institutions involved in this kind of practice rely on a false sense of protection that they will not get caught. Professor Mongalo joins us in studio to talk about currency manipulation and competition law. A very good morning to you, Prof. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Evan.
As an expert in competition law, how do you view the Competition Commission's findings that 17 banks have colluded and have to appear before its tribunal for the devaluation that we saw in the rand?
Well, I think it is a step in the right direction, particularly given the fact that it is anybody's guess as to how far does this conduct extend to. But what we know is that there is much likelihood that this conduct is very rife in the market industry.
You say that collusion, price fixing, it runs deep in the financial markets. Could you perhaps give us a sort of view as to how it happens, what it entails for specifically the man in the street who don't follow this kind of financial stuff every day?
Well, basically what happens is the collusion between the banks obviously will determine what the value ultimately of the currency that they are colluding in or manipulating is going to end up at the end of the day. And that would actually have a ratcheting effect on a whole lot of things that are dependent on the currency value, including also the determination of the interest at some point in time, also the determination of the price of fuel, for an example, things that will hit an ordinary man in the street in the pocket. And therefore, those kind of things, those kind of conducts do not only affect those that, contrary to popular belief, those that are engaged directly in the process of trading in foreign currency, but it can even affect an ordinary person in the street, because this has got a drizzling effect, if I were to call it that way.
If one can put it, I don't know, put it in rand sense or in a language that people can understand, what kind of effect does your research or your view since 2007 have of what has happened and the effect that it's had, the sort of ripple effect it's had in South Africa? We've since that time kind of gone downhill economically a little bit, and maybe people out there would point a finger at the banks that this could be part of what's been going on.
To a large extent, it will be very difficult to determine that all the currency movement would have been dependent on the collusion. I mean, the market forces are quite extensive. But obviously, when there is an intervening conduct like the one that the bank have been involved in, you would find that they actually contribute towards the movement in the market, in the currency. It may seem to an ordinary person that a shift in 1 or 2 cents may not actually make a huge difference, but to those who are trading in the currency, it can actually be quite extensive, because they deal in volumes, not only in like 100 rand, 1,000, they deal in billions. And if you do that on an ongoing basis, a difference in rand or even in 2 cents can actually make a huge difference. Therefore, the banks can actually benefit a lot here or avoid a huge loss, and at the same time then pass on that to the ultimate determination of the currency value, which will then trickle down to the ordinary person. And to the extent that it could have been, I mean, we know that it has been happening, at least in this case, since 2007, since the investigations took place. If we even say that it was actually 2% of all the currency determinations, it would be quite extensive. It will be a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a nice way to mitigate your losses in the end if you understand these processes. Now, you've been a strong advocate for strict regulation of the banks, and how do you see this work, and how is it going to curb this kind of anti-competitive behavior?
Well, we know very well that currently, before the NCOP, there is the financial sector regulation bill, which is going to regulate the conduct of the financial institutions. And it is actually proposing the twin peaks approach, in terms of which the conduct will be regulated by the regulator that will replace the Financial Services Board, and the prudential assurance then by the South African Reserve Bank. Now, it has been one leg that has been missing through the regulation has been the conduct of the financial institutions. The market conduct of the financial institutions has been lacking from the regulation. To give you an example, in terms of the regulation of corporate entities, companies, when they can be able to determine or to manipulate the value of their securities, meaning shares, we have the Financial Markets Act, which has been enforced since 2012, which has actually introduced strict penalties for those who are engaged in financial market abuse, including having to account for the profits that you have made and also been penalized in terms of insider trading if ultimately you lead the market to believe that the securities are worth this much, whereas they are not worth something else. But this has been lacking in the financial sector in respect to the banks.
It's absolutely shocking that you tell me that everything else seems to be regulated except those who run roughshod with your money. However, I want to talk about the change in competition law because the president talked about it during SONA a couple of weeks back now. How is it going to clamp down on the control of monopolies here in South Africa and the kind of cartel-like behavior that we see so often before the Competition Commission? They told me that they've got 133 cases of cartel-like behavior that they're investigating in South Africa.
Well, to the extent that the legislation is going to propose the demolition of the cartel in industries, this will actually go a long way. But we must understand that in certain industries, the market players are very limited, and it's going to take a long time to actually create competition in those industries. And to that extent, I think, even though we can have a sort of a legislation to build up that competitive players within the industry, it'll basically take a long time. But to create an environment for those competitive players to arise will be quite helpful. And I think if you can say we're going to punish criminally those who are involved in this conduct, and therefore that will crush the monopolies, may be quite short-sighted, according to me, because when you penalize criminally only the people who are involved in the practice without penalizing the institutions that may benefit from this kind of conduct, then ultimately you are not going to kill the monopoly quite quickly. But if you are going to address actually the anti-competitive practices of the cartels and break the cartels and create an environment for the creation of competitors within the environment, that can work, I think.
Now the billion-dollar question, pardon the pun, the billion-dollar question now is, what sanctions do you then believe those found guilty of anti-competitive behavior, even those who went and blew the whistle? We heard some blew the whistle on others and worked with the authorities. What should the sanctions be? Because it should be sending a message and setting an example, shouldn't it?
Yes. I think at the moment we think research actually shows that to just have a one-size-fits-all penalty of saying 10% of your turnover may be unrelated to the conduct. And the conduct may actually lead to the institutions either making billions and billions of rands, which will be way more than the 10% of their turnover, and then they can be able to pay that off. And sometimes it can even be maybe less, in which case then it will be quite punitive. But I suggest that in the case, in as much as it is done in terms of the insider trading offenses under the Financial Markets Act, where a person can be punished for or penalized for the loss that they have avoided or the profit that they have made as a result of market manipulation, something similar to that, something that is similar to what we find in the Financial Markets Act should be adopted insofar as the conduct or market conduct of the financial institutions is concerned.
Prof, thank you for coming in today. That's the head of law at Monash, South Africa, Professor Tsepo Mongalo. And of course, we're talking about collusion at this point specifically within the banking industry. Of course, 17 local and international banks will appear before the competition tribunal now to give answers as to what they did with the currency of this country. Yeah, that interview I recorded late yesterday. Interesting take of Professor Mongalo on what's happening within this very emotive story in South Africa. But let's go on to Facebook now and have a look at what's on our Facebook page right now. The African National Congress stalwart and political activist Winnie Madikizela Mandela has been honoured with a Lifetime Achievement Award by Gauteng Premier David Makura. Then the big story coming out of the capital, major roads coming into Pretoria have been blocked by coal trucks this morning. More than 20 trucks were seen parked near the Maraba Stad Home Affairs offices over what is believed to be a march. And finally, the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry says it believes that access to higher education is not only about funds, but it is about the government considering other platforms of higher education to accommodate students. All of these and more on our Facebook page right now. Now we move on, of course. Big match going on for South Africa. Unfortunately, Kendall, the Black Caps look to be on top a little bit. South Africa under the pump. Looks like we might lose this one.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be 2 in a row, something we didn't expect when we flew over down under. And Martin Guptill has been the man who's actually been in charge. He's been at the crease for some time now. He's faced some 114, 115 deliveries, and he's actually taking it to the Proteas. He's sitting on 139 right now. It's not something we expected that they would still have him in there. I would have thought that Imran Tahir maybe might have taken him out already, somewhere down the middle overs.
Yeah, first game back in this series for Guptill as well, and what a return for him to the side, and what a return to form. So they need about 70 runs of 13 overs, which is really a doddle. Should be quite easy. So this series will be tied at 2-2 with them then going into the decider over the weekend. South Africans love to win though, and we always get very critical when we don't win. But I think we have to think in the context of this tournament, or of this series, South Africa really preparing for the Champions Trophy, which is happening in a couple of months' time.
Exactly. And I think a little bit of a worry would be exactly what's going on in the middle order. We lost our wickets at a steady pace, at a steady rate in the middle order. One would have hoped that would have steeled that middle order. Had it not been for A.B. de Villiers' brilliance on the morning, it would be a very different story for the Proteas.
Yeah, the game would have been gone already. I think we were 6-7 down for 150 odd, and in a whole lot of trouble. But that's a tale of the tape. It just sets it up for a perfect decider, I would think.
I think it would be fantastic to see how the rest of the series plays out.
Well, that's it. South Africa under the pump in Hamilton. Let's go over to Phil now for our weather update.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's get that weather update, and let's first start of all take a look at what's going on in the northern parts of the Reprieve Strip here. Here we're seeing a low pressure system which again is drawing in a lot of moisture through that Central African region all the way from Malawi in the east towards that western interior here. It's linking up with a low pressure system which is now passing by South Africa's southeastern coastline, and that of course is bringing in some rainfall to the area. Unfortunately, it's not bringing any rainfall to Cape Town or the surrounding areas, which was where we really need it. But yeah, like I say, bringing in rainfall to the rest of South Africa, which we can't be unhappy about. Into tomorrow, very similar conditions. It's concentrated around Lesotho, though, about a 60% chance of showers there. Showers and thunder showers developing through Central Africa and Rwanda and moving down towards Malawi, into Zambia, and then down and towards the Reprieve Strip. Again, that low pressure system drawing in a lot of that moisture in the air there. Taking a look in a little bit more detail, what's going on in your city today. Cape Town, another dry one, 29-degree maximums for today. Wind speeds are at about 25 to 30 kilometers per hour. Showers and thunder showers forecast throughout most of the rest of the country, but most of it is going to take place between the afternoon and the evening, really. Some passing showers through that central interior. Our neighbouring states expecting a warm one. Gaborone peaks at 28 degrees and Windhoek a 28-degree high as well. Some showers in Windhoek, about a 60% chance of showers there for the capital. So great news for the area there as well. And Reprieve Strip expecting showers as well. That, of course, extends further towards Harare, towards the west there, 24 degrees. Kinshasa's at 33 degrees and Brazzaville in the Congo there, 32. It's going to be a bit of a rainy one in Kigali at 25 degrees. But unfortunately, again, showers not quite making it to the areas we needed. It's going to be a dry one in Nairobi. It's going to be a dry one in Addis Ababa, 23-degree high there for Addis. Now, of course, a high-pressure system moving along the northern coastline there is mitigating the effects of these winter low-pressure systems. And, of course, we've just moved into northern hemisphere spring. So this is going to become an all-too-common appearance. We're going to see a lot less rainfall over the northern regions of Africa's coastlines and a lot more. We're going to see, well, hopefully, we expect those showers and thunder showers to extend a little bit further north from Central Africa up in towards Ethiopia and the surrounding areas. So as we progress into northern hemisphere summer, that's what we're going to see. It's rainfall is going to move a little bit further north. So for today, though, expecting isolated showers for the area. For tomorrow, very similar conditions. Those isolated showers extending into Ethiopia, not quite reaching Eritrea. But of course, it is going to be a little bit of a wet one along the southern coastlines there of West Africa. Again, another dry one over that northern region. Now, in terms of your temperatures, very quickly, Al Drive 24 degrees and temperatures along the northern coastline fairly mild at about 18 in Benghazi. This is where we're going to leave your weather for now. Stay tuned.
The only way to pour the perfect beer, this professional barman would tell you, is into a glass tilted at exactly 45 degrees. Oh, bless you. Bless you, sir. Bless you again. Well, we'd say the perfect way to pour a beer is at this angle. Straight into your mouth. Tops its bar. Good beer, good advice, no Ponzi beer stuff.
Welcome back. Very good morning to you once again. Just gone 10 o'clock Central African time here on the Newsroom show with Kendall Makamate. We'll be with you for the next hour.
Yep.
Talking cricket quickly, South Africa getting a hiding in it.
Like you said a couple of minutes ago, they're definitely under the pump. They've been shown exactly how to do it, and Martin Guptill has been at the helm for the New Zealanders. And it seems as if, like you said, the final on the weekend is going to be exactly that, a tester for the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, that's the kind of games you want to play when you go into big tournaments. Hopefully, it'll all bode well for that. But of course, on the news side, we're focusing today on the Competition Commission planning to prosecute more than a dozen international and local banks for alleged collusion in foreign currency trading. So we're asking the following question, Kendall, which is on screen.
Which is exactly what it is we'd like for you to comment on. We want to know from you, is it something that the banks should be facing? Sanctions, what do you think they should be facing in terms of being found guilty of collusion and manipulating the rand?
Colin Sintelele says, I've been hearing a lot about banks overcharging the people. Is it possible for me to get my money back from all these years? Colin says, probably not going to happen, my friend, but you can inquire. Feel free to inquire with those banks that are, well, not all of them. Some South African banks are, of course, form part of the investigation that are now with the Competition Tribunal. Now, we're also conducting a poll today because there's a lot of traffic on this story on social media and mainstream. Criticism of Trevor Noah paying 130 million rand for an apartment. Yeah, he paid $10 million for an apartment in Manhattan. 86% of you are saying it's grossly unfair. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying. Unati says,
I don't know why people on Noah's case. That guy didn't steal the money. He worked hard for it.
There you go. Nhlamulo Ngobeni, he says he worked for the money. It's not like he did corruption to get the money, he says.
And Nhlamulo carries on saying, if you were staying in a shack, you're going to criticize it. He's saying he's earning more money, but staying in a shack. That is so true, and it's so South African, that particular thing.
Yeah, we have become a very critical society, but that's the age of social media, mind you. It's very easy to sit behind your phone or your computer and be quite mean and quite explicit with what you have to say. Anyhow, we'll keep on tweeting us on that story. It'd be nice to see what you think, but also want to see where we end with regards to the voting process. But there's a lot of news on. Let's get straight into our headlines now. The Tshwane Executive Mayor, Solim Simanga, instructs the Pretoria Metro Police to use wheel clamps on the protesting truck drivers' vehicles. Minimum wage and the Health Ombudsman's report on Gauteng's health tragedy are expected to feature prominently when the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, replies to oral questions in the National Assembly later today. Social Development Minister Batabile Dlamini is expected to brief the media on the Sasa debacle a little bit later. Those are our top stories right now. Let's go over to Kendall for some sport.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but you know what? I can't get over the cricket. In fact, I'd love to have another quick peek at what's going on, because it seems as if this is the one match that we've all been waiting for to make sure that the Proteas are really ready for that massive test coming up in June, July, the ICC Championship Trophy. Here's a quick look at what's going on. Have a quick look at what's going on in terms of action on the field. All right, now there we go. As you can see that it seems that New Zealand really is running away with this. They're very, very close to the target of 280 that was posted by the Proteas. And we've got a whole lot more on the go in terms of the sports. This is what else you can expect in the sports today.
Given the situation, I think we can't go beyond what South Africa can afford at the present moment, unfortunately.
The Minister of Sports, Fikile Mbalula, announces that South Africa and Durban might not end up hosting the Commonwealth Games 22 after all, as the budget becomes a sticking point.
Jobodwana has a lot of work to do here, but he's coming through. And also Jobodwana takes it, he eases off across the line, 10.21, a little shake of the head there by Jobodwana.
After years of studying and training in the United States, South African speedster Anaso Jobodwana is back in the country.
Yeah, it's good to be back home. It kind of feels new because I've been away for so long, but to be back here training with a good group of people, good medical staff, it's really good for me.
Of course, all of this in more detail we'll have you at about 10:40 or so. Be sure to stick around. For now, do stay with Evan because he's got the news.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kendall. Very good morning to you once again. If you're just with us, Pretoria Metro Police are desperately trying to negotiate with truck drivers who are protesting against Eskom's decision to stop granting them coal transport contracts. Major traffic disruptions are continuing in the city, where routes, including the N1, N4, N14 and R21, are affected. Pretoria motorists are frustrated as they experience major traffic disruptions. Trucks have been parked from the Nel Mapius turnoff up to Solomon Mahlangu Drive on the R21. Now, the case against the Fees Must Fall leader at the Durban University of Technology, Bonginkosi Kanyile, will be heard in the Constitutional Court today. The court will hear an urgent application for leave to appeal against an order of the Supreme Court of Appeal that dismissed Kanyile's application for special leave to appeal. In February of 2016, he was charged with several counts related to an illegal gathering and released on a warning. He was then arrested later in 2016 and refused bail in the Durban Magistrates Court. The High Court also dismissed Kanyile's appeal. Now, Bonginkosi Kanyile has been in custody for 5 months now. He is the last student still in jail after last year's unrest at campuses nationwide. He's facing charges of incitement to commit violence, possession of explosives, public violence and trespassing. Kanyile will argue whether it is in the interest of justice to deny him bail. He will also argue that the magistrate placed undue emphasis on his alleged past conduct, particularly the criticism that he breached the warning conditions of the 5th of February when he was first arrested. He will also argue that his rights to a fair trial were violated by a failure to conduct an inquiry into whether he had breached the warning conditions. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will today respond to oral questions in the National Assembly. This will be Ramaphosa's first appearance in the first quarter of Parliament this year. Questions are expected to range from the national minimum wage to the life Sidimeni tragedy that resulted in the death of now more than 100 mentally ill patients in Gauteng. Ramaphosa is also expected to be asked if he was aware of the deployment of excessive security measures during this year's SONA address. The question of whether or not the Deputy President declared any possible conflicts of interest before he assumed responsibility to oversee the turnaround of South African Airways is also expected to be addressed. Ramaphosa will appear again before the National Assembly next week, Thursday. Now, the ANC and the DA have called for an inquiry into the affairs of the Social Development Department. The country is sitting in a crisis which could cause social upheaval if 17 million grant recipients are not paid by the end of March. Social Development Minister Barabile Dlamini failed to attend a parliamentary committee meeting, while Sasa CEO did also not grace Parliament. Alarm is growing in South Africa as the livelihood of 17 million people who receive social grants still hangs in the balance. Unless an agreement is reached, the payment of grants to those who depend on their children and pensioners' support will stop on the 1st of April. The Social Development Minister is expected to brief the media on this debacle a little bit later today. Now, Prasa board chairperson Popo Molefe says it's now up to the Transport Department to decide what to do with the parastatal's firing of the acting CEO, Collins Letsoalo. Letsoalo is adamant that he'll remain in the post until he receives a letter from the Transport Minister, Dipuo Peters, to the contrary. Peters is yet to comment about the latest boardroom drama at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa. The company's board yesterday appointed a new acting CEO after its decision to axe Letsoalo, who Peters had seconded from her department. This followed a damning report that Letsoalo had increased his own salary by 350% to 5.9 million rand. Now, of course, back to our focus. If a little bit earlier we're looking at, well, currency manipulation. South Africa began this week to enroll South African participants in a clinical trial. Is that right? Namely, Reprieve, a full randomized trial to prevent vascular events in HIV. The program will focus on HIV-related heart disease amongst people living with HIV/AIDS. The randomized trial to prevent vascular events in HIV, or Reprieve, is the largest randomized clinical trial to date to address the elevated risk of heart disease in people living with HIV. Now, from the United States National Institutes of Health, we are joined this morning by Dr. Carl Diefenbach. Very good morning to you, Doc. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be here with you.
Please tell us about the trial Reprieve that you've just launched.
So, in HIV-infected people who go on treatment, they can expect a fairly normal life expectancy. However, what we see as people age with HIV in the presence of antiretrovirals is they have an increased risk of heart disease, about a twofold risk of heart disease, and also an increase of stroke. Women with HIV have a higher risk of heart disease. So the purpose of this trial is really quite simple. Can, by adding a drug called a statin, can you prevent this increased level of risk?
You talk about twofold, or that's 100% risk.
100% increase. In women, it's almost 200%.
And the kind of fallout or fatalities from that, is that also at an unacceptable level?
It absolutely is, because people aren't aware that they have this risk. Because usually people who are HIV infected don't necessarily have the usual risk factors of obesity, smoking, other lifestyle issues that somebody who is at risk of a heart attack normally would have. So HIV itself is a risk factor. So by adding the statin, trying to add the statin to their antiretroviral regimen, we're seeing if we can have an impact on this heart disease issue.
The response amongst South Africans living with HIV to this latest trial?
So far it's been very good. And so it's actually a really wonderful time to be here and to launch this trial, because the age limits on this trial are people over 40 or under 75. There aren't many clinical trials for people of this age group. So the fact that we can be talking about a trial in South Africa of people who are age 40 to 75 with HIV who are on antiretrovirals is a miracle of where we are in modern medicine. So it's a really good thing.
The drug, it's called
Pivastatin.
Pivastatin, okay. Yes. Now, how confident are you that this will bring the relief that you're seeking?
Well, again, so the whole point of running a clinical trial is to get the necessary evidence. Statins, as a class, work very well in HIV-negative people to prevent this kind of disease. But they have never really been used extensively in an HIV-positive population, particularly in cases where they are not necessarily meeting the risk criteria. So a preliminary small study was positive enough to make us want to go forward and launch a trial with 6,500 participants on 5 continents. So this is a big bet for us, and South Africa is going to play a major role in helping us answer this question.
Of course, South Africa is also busy with a vaccine trial, HIV vaccine trial that's going to last for quite a few years yet. Have you heard anything of the start or how matters are proceeding?
So actually I was here in South Africa on World AIDS Day in December to launch that trial. The launch went extremely well, and enrollment is also going well. But this is really a golden age of HIV prevention. In addition to the vaccine trial, we also have an ongoing study called AMP, which is antibody-mediated protection. And so far, we've enrolled almost 1,000 people in that study, and it's going incredibly well here in South Africa as well.
South Africa, is this the front line in the fight against HIV now, seeing the numbers that we have?
Well, South Africa is on the front line, but the beauty of this country is they have an incredibly well-informed populace, as well as a wonderful educational system and the medicine and the physicians and the hospitals and the infrastructure to really perform research. they also have the regulatory capacity to handle these kinds of studies. So South Africa is the best kind of partner you can have to do these kinds of studies.
Will we see an HIV vaccine in our lifetime?
I sure hope so.
If you had to put a number on it, I know you're probably not a gambling man, but if you had to put a number on it, and if I had to tell you by 2030, I have a feeling that by then...
Oh, if you're going to give me till 2030, I think we'll not only have a vaccine, but also we will be able to cure a significant number of people with HIV infection.
Well, Dr. Diefenbach.
So that's my bet.
Well, that's a very good bet, and that's great news to hear. Thank you very much for joining us here in our studio in Johannesburg. From the United States National Institutes of Health, Dr. Carl Diefenbach, and of course, they've just started a brand new trial. We're going to take a short commercial break. Newsroom will be back right after this.
A presumed U.S. drone strike in the south of the country has killed 3 al-Qaeda suspects.
Death toll in Yemen's 18-month-old civil war now stands at about 10,000.
People get killed or die and are actually buried before they're recorded. And we don't have a way of recording that, but we know the numbers are much higher.
Water restrictions are to be imposed on villages in and around the Nkomazi municipality.
Pumps can't pump the water because there's no water in a river. And if the water is coming back, then it's full of mud.
Those who can pray and those who can do any miracle to make sure that we've got enough rain, give it a try.
Technology is all around us and some can't live without it.
There's also the problem of internet connectivity.
I was speaking to a robot.
It also makes a few governments panic and therefore they block the internet from time to time.
They just banned the internet, which is the source of my livelihood.
For African technology and social media news, join me, Phumelele Zondi, on Network every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Welcome back here with Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, studies have shown people living with HIV are 50 to 100% more likely to have a heart attack or develop cardiovascular disease than people living without the HIV infection. It's envisaged that this clinical trial, Reprieve, will assist people living with HIV/AIDS to live longer lives. Reprieve is an international trial with sites in the United States, Canada, Thailand, Brazil, and now here in South Africa. The trial is expected to enroll 6,500 participants worldwide, approximately 100 clinical sites. Now, in studio, well, we are joined by the study coordinator for Reprieve at the Wits Health Consortium. That's the Helen Joseph Hospital, Pauline Vunandlala. Very good morning to you, Pauline.
Morning.
And then with her, she is with Yvette Raphael, who is living with HIV, aging with HIV. Yvette will talk about the importance of such research. A very good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Pauline, let's start with you. What is the situation concerning the prevalence of heart disease amongst people living with HIV in South Africa?
In South Africa, it has been noted that there is an increase in cardiovascular diseases in people living with HIV. Therefore, I think studies like Reprieve are going to be helping us a lot because, as you know, the patients with HIV, they've got extra burden. They've got the infection itself, which attacks their immune system, and they also have the increasing this cardiovascular disease, and also they've got opportunistic infections. So if there is any study that is embarking on preventing these cardiovascular disease, I think it will be welcomed by the South Africans.
Now, Yvette, tell us a little bit your story.
All right. I was diagnosed with HIV when I was 25 years old, and at that time, I was told that I would have to take ARVs, HIV medication, for the rest of my life. I didn't think it would be another 15 years later. So 15 years later, and as a person living with HIV advocate, I realized that we starting to face issues as people living with HIV and getting older, that issues related to heart diseases, diabetes and other illnesses. So for us, this is welcomed, and we're excited that finally the lens is on people living with HIV and improving their quality of life while on treatment.
Why would you say is it important then for people to register with Reprieve, and tell us, what does it involve?
It's important for people to register or to participate in the trials because it's important for us to know the facts. Our government is very finicky when it comes to research and the results, and to prove that this drug can help people living with HIV. I think it's important for people living with HIV older than 40 to enroll in this study so that we have definite answers for this.
How do you view Reprieve?
I view Reprieve as a study that is going to be helping our people, because if you've got a burden on your own because of HIV status, as she's saying, then you need some other form of help like Reprieve. Reprieve is going to be helping a lot of people in our society.
And the experience of participants in this trial now, what are they telling you?
In this trial, we've enrolled since October last year. We have enrolled about 50 patients. I think it is fast growing, and I think the positiveness of our people is great because they are just coming to enroll in the study. We have introduced it in the clinics, in the surrounding clinics, as well as HIV clinic at Helen Joseph. And then the patients are coming. I've interviewed, I think, about 2 of them. They just welcomed this because if it's going to prolong their lifespan, they are going to be helped, because some of them are mothers living with HIV, some of them are fathers living with HIV. So any help that is going to be helping them, they are welcomed. So they also want to plow back to the community because as mothers, you need to have your family. They always had their family support, but now that they are going to be involved in this study is going to help them to prolong their lifespan as well as to look after their children.
What are the experiences that you've gone through with this trial and the conversations you've had to have with your family and those kind of things? What do they say? Because obviously everyone has a little bit of input before you come into this kind of thing.
Yes, I just need to make clear I'm not a trial participant, but I'm an advocate in research. So I advocate for research to happen in South Africa because of the burden of HIV that we face in our country.
Okay, that's very difficult. How many people? Very difficult for me, obviously. I've been misinformed. I apologize for that. How many people have you enrolled in the program? And talk to us about the follow-ups and the follow-through and the work that you do with them once they're enrolled.
Should I speak specifically about Reprieve or clinical trials in general?
No, Reprieve specifically.
Reprieve, we have enrolled about 50 patients on Reprieve. And then the criteria for enrollment we mentioned is between 40 and 75. And then the patients should be on ARV, uninterrupted ARVs for 6 months at least. If then there is some interruption because of certain conditions or of certain illnesses or of some sort, then the patient is only allowed to have missed at least 14 doses only. And then the patients must be well and must also be in the I've said it in ages of 40 to 75. Okay, they mustn't be having things like high cholesterol because this is preventing the patients from getting these diseases, which eventually will cause maybe heart failures if it's not treated.
Yeah, it's the other diseases that you take your eye off that can be very dangerous. Do you believe in your lifetime we'll have a vaccine for HIV?
I would hope so. And as an advocate and an activist, that is what we're working for, so that we can see more research happening in this community, and as well for people to have some kind of hope. And I hope during this time we would see some positive results in HIV and AIDS research. So many is happening in South Africa, so we need to keep our eye on it.
Ladies, thank you very much for coming in today and joining us to talk about this very important trial. This is the study coordinator for Reprieve at the Wits Health Consortium, also working at the Helen Joseph Hospital, Pauline Vunandlala, together with Yvette Raphael, who is living with HIV. We're going to take a short commercial break. Newsroom will be back with you right after this.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
A top 5 rated horse racing event in the world, fashion is a highlight for those in attendance. All decked out in blue and white, the Lomorians Queen Plate is the premier event that kicked off everyone's social calendar.
That it was all part of my master plan to cast John Legend, but deprive him of his normal instrument and give that one to Ryan.
The House of Truth is not just a name. It is a religion. It is a lifestyle. It is a conviction that drives us.
What really excites me is how people have kept it very simple and also played with the theme, and how each person has interpreted it in their own way.
To stay updated with all the current entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
In 2001, when the rand collapsed from 7 Rand 60 to 13 Rand 84 to the US dollar, the then Chief Executive Officer of the South African Business Chamber, SACOP, Kevin Wakeford, blew the whistle, accusing 3 big corporates and 1 global bank of being party to manipulation in the currency markets. Wakeford predicted that the rand was on its way to even 20 to even 40 and possibly even 50 Rand to the dollar, which would have thrown the 7-year-old democracy into economic and political turmoil. As a result of his intervention, the Rand Commission was then set up by the then President Thabo Mbeki to investigate the claims, and the Rand's collapse was arrested and reversed. The Rand Commission was, however, shut down prematurely, and Wakeford was fired as the CEO of the South African Chamber of Business. He now joins us on the line from, in fact, in our Pretoria studio. So very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Do you feel vindicated 16 years later?
Elvis, you know, for me, it's not important about being vindicated or not. It's really about making sure the system works and ordinary people's savings and money and the transactions they conduct are performed in an honest and fair environment, you know. I think individuals are not as important as the collective and the total economy that we're trying to, you know, because it impacts on all of us at the end of the day if we have an unusually weak currency.
Now, we've now found that there's 17 banks that colluded in order to manipulate the rand. What do you make of this, and do you think that this can have far-reaching effect?
Well, firstly, hats off to the Competition Commission. They've conducted a major investigation over a number of years now, and they've now handed this matter over to the tribunal. But one must remember that this is limited at this stage anyway to the Competitions Act. In other words, anti-competitive behavior. But deeper, there, if one has to really drill down, then there are other issues. There are issues of, in my view, theft and fraud. Because if you have a fictitious price, it's an act of fraud. And if you're not paying what you should be paying for a particular currency, you're paying more for it, then it's theft. Because somebody's benefiting, and ultimately it will benefit the bottom line of a particular bank or banks, and ordinary citizens are being nailed here, and that's not right.
Mm-hmm. How was the consumers then on the ground? How did that impact on them in terms of the rand escalating from just above 7 rand to about 13 rand?
Well, you can just imagine you would be paying almost double because the dollar is the aggregate currency, and all currencies trade against the dollar. So prices such as maize, cooking oil, flour, sugar, petrol, diesel, all those prices are dictated by the dollar. So if you have a weak rand, you pay more even for a local product. Mm-hmm. So for instance, maize, which is a major product in South Africa, the price is not set in Bothaville in the Free State. It's set in Chicago in the United States of America. So ordinary people end up having a diminished disposable income. And of course, all our balance sheets are affected because our balance sheets start shrinking in dollar terms, whether it be the value of our house or the value of other mobile assets we may own.
Now, at the point in time when you blew the whistle, the Rand Commission was established, but it was stopped prematurely. Why was that the case, you think, and what could have come out of that?
I think at that time the system, Elvis, was scared of the global environment. They were intimidated by international banks. They didn't want to scare off investors. And of course, I think there were people who were conflicted in the process. If one reads the late Barry Sargent's book, Assault on the Rand, if one also reads a number of articles written by him, he fingers certain commissioners, and he also fingers the Minister of Justice at that time for being conflicted. He, for instance, speaks to the former Minister of Justice being part of a major black economic empowerment deal with Sasa, and that was one of the companies fingered. He also speaks to the chairman of the commission, John Myberg, who was a corporate governance consultant to Sasa post facto after the Commission of Inquiry. And Mandla Ganshaw, the other commissioner, ended up being on the board of Sasa. So, one can never prove all these things, but they seem awfully unusual that very powerful people who determined the future of that particular commission were all involved with one of the companies fingered. So, just Christine Kunter, one of the commissioners, wrote a minority report which points to a requirement for further criminal investigations. Mm-hmm. So, there was definitely something rotten there, and the rats were scurrying off the deck. But the problem today still exists. There's delinquency in the markets. The so-called King Code of corporate governance seemingly is absent. There isn't proper oversight in the banks. And we need to have a total relook at the financial services sector in South Africa.
Now, the Competition Commission has now referred this matter to the Competition Tribunal, which will mean there will be implications for these banks. Now, Citibank, one of the largest banks in the USA, they have come forward, and they obviously are going to pay a fine of 69,000 rand, 69 million rand rather. Some people are saying and suggesting that that is a slap on the wrist. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, there are billions of rands every day traded in the currency markets. So quite frankly, 69 million, perhaps what they've allowed is that this particular bank has come forward and provided a large quantum of evidence, and perhaps that's why they've allowed that. I don't know. I think one needs to ask the Commission themselves. But at the end of the day, I'm not even sure whether imposing fines of billions of rands will solve the problem. Yes, impose the fines, of course, but we need to get to the bottom of why this happens, because paying a fine is easy for a bank. Because they're not, individuals aren't using their own money. They're using shareholder capital. They're using the profits from the very trades they made. So we need to look to other forms of sanction that will prevent this from happening again. One would be the withdrawal of currency trading licenses. Another could be that the CEO and the directors are brought to book. And that so-called rogue traders, and I don't like using that word because they seemingly want to hang out a few people to dry here and treat them as the rats. But at the end of the day, the institutional framework makes it easy for rats. And we need to deal with that framework and prevent these things from happening again. And my view is bring some people to book, including directors, and make sure that they are publicly censured for what they've done.
Do you think that right now, Mr. Wakeford, the banking clients can sleep easy?
Well, I don't think people in general trust the banks. I don't think they trust the financial services institutions. I don't believe the World Economic Forum status afforded to our banks. I think we need more banks. We need mutual banks. We need community banks. We need a state bank. We need lots of competition, and we need to hold these very monopolistic institutions accountable for what they're doing to our people.
I thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
That was the former CEO of the South African Chamber of Business, SACOP, and whistleblower, Kevin Wakeford. He's from our Pretoria studios.
This Ford Cougar thing is becoming a hot potato for them, excuse the pun.
US car maker Ford has finally admitted that a fault is causing some of its Ford Cougar SUVs to catch fire, and
it also formally issued a recall in South Africa.
Ford needs to take accountability.
We'll work with our dealers and try to come up with a way that satisfies them.
AIDS and poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident, ambitious person, but behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution
to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupalong every Friday at 17:30.
Now, welcome back. It is Kendall Makamati that's here. Now, before we bring you the sports news, we go back now to one of our top stories for the day, where Pretoria Metro Police have been working hard at negotiating with truck drivers who are protesting Eskom's decision to stop granting them coal transport contracts. For the latest, we go back to our reporter, Sipho Stierman from Pretoria, who's been tracking this story for us. Sipho, good morning. Can you give us an idea of what's happening now?
A very good morning to you and our viewers at home. Well, now we have arrived at Marabastad, where the protest to the union buildings is due to commence. And with me, you remember this morning there was a lot of, perhaps, I would say, a lack of information as to exactly what is the purpose of this march and who's organizing it and what will they be handing to the union buildings. And I do have the organizers with me here, and I have Mary Paddy from the Transportation Coal Forum, and who will tell us exactly what is the purpose of this gathering here.
Today we are here for a demonstration against the IPPs. We are taking a memorandum to the Presidency's office to say that we are against the signing of the IPPs, which is the independent power producer.
All right, why are you against this signing with the independent power producers, and can you just tell us a bit more about them?
If you look at 2010, when the minister was signing the part of the IPPs, the economic rate was at about 5%, and currently the economic rate is about 1.7%. So therefore the IPPs are much more expensive. You look at the price that Eskom needs to buy it for 2.14 rand, sell it for 83 cents to the consumers, whereas coal is much cheaper at about 63 cents.
So what is the fear? Is the fear loss of jobs? What are your concerns exactly?
Going into IPPs will close mines, and the mines will then lead to scale down the suppliers. The power stations are going to be closed. People are going to lose their jobs. The whole of Mpumalanga is going to be affected. Witbank is going to turn into a ghost town, because then you'll not be needing mines. And it's not visibly and also it's not something that you can rely on in terms of when we have coal, something that it's underground, something that you cannot take it away. You go and buy a technology that we really do not understand, a technology that will be coming in to take out the businesses.
All right, I see there's loads of trucks here and some your supporters there. Can you just talk to us who is involved in this gathering?
We are the Coal Transporters Forum. We are about 52 companies. We are owning these trucks. We've got our drivers here with us. We've got our employees. We've got any people that are participating in the mining center, the suppliers to Eskom. They are all here. We are speaking in one voice that we cannot sit back and look at the people losing their jobs.
Right, now let's talk about this morning. We woke up to lots of frustrations from motorists. The trucks were blockaded at lots of routes going to Pretoria. Talk to us about that.
We had a plan that the trucks should be here at Marabastad at 10:30. And if you look at the time, everybody's here, everything is in place. The drivers were driving at the speed to accommodate the people on the street so that there shouldn't be any chaos. And the speed that they were using is the one that people think that we stopped on the road. No truck was standing on the road. We are driving at a slow pace, coming into the CBD to protect everybody.
But you gotta admit, it was during peak traffic hours, and obviously that pace that the trucks were moving at was rather slow, and that's why we had traffic congestion on the roads. Why not move overnight?
The time of convening here, it's 10:30. From 10:30, we need to be using bakkies to the Union building, because we cannot take trucks there, to the Union building, and then 12:30, hand over memorandum, come back to Marabastad, 1:30, and then we go back. So we were within the time limit of getting here at Basco area.
Speaking to Metropolis, they said that there was no agreement that you would be driving the trucks at that time. But do you appreciate, though, the inconvenience that was caused to motorists that were heading to work?
In our mind, we are concerned about the safety of the people. And for us to have a truck driving at the speed that is above the speed limit, anything could have happened there. That's why you have you managed to get here successfully.
All right, well, there you have it from the organizers themselves, saying they'll be handing that memorandum of grievances at the Union buildings at about midday, and after that they will disperse. But we will keep monitoring events for you here in Pretoria. It's now back to you in studio.
Right, now thanks very much to Sipho Stierman there for that update with the Coal Transporters Forum and their protest there on Eskom's decisions. It is now time for the sports, and as you know, the New Zealand cricket team are on course for a comprehensive victory over South Africa in the fourth one-day international clash between the two sides in Hamilton. The Proteas were restricted to 279 for 8 in their 50 overs. But Kiwi opener Martin Guptill was teaching the visitors a batting lesson or two. Now, we've got some highlights to bring to you, but before I bring that to you, I'll have you know that New Zealand has actually already won. Let's see how it happened.
Straight away, taken as they're at edge. Straight up, yes, Paul Rifle puts his finger up, and Jeetan Patel, his introduction has worked.
Oh, he's used to that one. That's a glorious shot for 6. My goodness me.
It's over mid-on. Played with control. Ball that was slightly full from Bolt.
And it's just gone up too. Again. Oh, spectacular all round. Oh, Hector. Getting really messy for New Zealand now. Oh, really? How good's that?
Edge taken as it carried yesterday, and what a terrible way to go. Brownlee strangled down the leg side.
Well, that's close. That is close, yes.
Partnership broken. Won't get it that way. Will not get it that way. 6 more for Guptill.
Well, I think he's done that tonight. And that's just power from Guptill. Another 6.
Taylor, that's trademark. We haven't seen that for a long time. That's gone a long way. It equals Martin Guptill.
All right, now just to have you know that Martin Guptill is busy talking as man of the match. We're going to take a quick up sound of what he's saying right now, live on your screen.
Myself, we put on a good partnership there, and the way Roscoe came in and batted as well. We put on a fantastic partnership to really set it up.
Were you surprised at your timing?
A little bit. I heard a couple of good nets the last few days, but it's always nice to go out in the middle and hit a few of the screws.
Do you find that your batting's now more reactive, that you're not premeditating as much? Because it looks like you're just accessing all parts of the ground with ease.
Yeah, a little bit. I think you can go through times where you try a few too many things and it doesn't work out, but if you try and keep it as simple as possible and just watch the ball and react, it's just going to be slightly easier for you to bat on.
Record partnership with Ross Taylor, nice batting with your good mate, but also a guy who knows this ground well. What were you guys talking about at the start of that partnership especially?
Just to take it deep, that was the main thing. If we could have created a good partnership like we did and take it as deep as we could, we're always going to go close to chasing the score, and it turned out that way.
Did you notice the confidence in the side? I know you're not going to probably say it, but with your arrival and coming back, did you notice the batters felt, I suppose, a spring in their step, knowing they had the experience at the top?
I don't know, to be honest. No, it was, everyone said good to have you back, but it was just nice to come back and put in a contribution.
We'll have to ask you, it looked like in the field the old hamstrings were getting a bit tight, and also when you were batting between the wickets every now and then. How is the body?
Yeah, I think I'm just getting old, mate. No, it's a little bit of tightness, but nothing too bad at the moment. See how I pull up tomorrow and, hopefully carry it on.
How do you reflect on that? When do you reflect on that innings? Because it was pretty special, and I tell you, everyone who watched it was in awe.
It's a good question. We were pretty quick turnaround for Saturday at Eden Park, so I just got to reflect on it when I get a moment to myself and just park it pretty quickly because we've got another game in a couple of days.
Well, go get some ice, hop in that ice bath. Congratulations, it's been an absolute thrill watching you play. I tell you, everyone has enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you in Auckland.
Cheers, Greg. Thanks, mate.
There we go, Martin Guptill, the ANZ man of the match, and what's been a great game here. We head to Auckland 2-2.
Yeah, easy choice, wasn't it? Here are the highlights. Simon Doyle, enjoy these.
Yeah, it started with Dean Brownlee. Partnership of just...
Right, we saw those highlights ourselves, and Martin Guptill is just coming back from a pretty long layoff, and he actually batted them, had them fetching balls from all over the field. Now, ahead of the IAAF World Cross Country Championships in Kampala next month, sprinters and distance runners were in action in Durban last night. This as the top flight domestic track and field season got underway with the first of 4 legs in the inaugural ASA Speed Series. Former World Championships 200-meter bronze medalist Anaso Joborwana spearheaded the men's 100-meter lineup, winning it in a time of 10.29 seconds. Let's have a look.
Well, you could hear the wind there in our effects microphone as Emilie Rasmus does indeed get an extremely fast start. Joborwana has a lot of work to do here, but he's coming through. Anaso Joborwana takes it, he eases off across the line, 10.21. A little shake of the head there by Joborwana. Not entirely happy with that one. And Dikeledi, I think he lost a few hundredths of a second there by slowing down. But a great finish.
What did you think of that race, Anaso?
Horrible. Got a lot to work on. My start is still not good, but it's early in the season, so it's good to come out and get my body back healthy again. We'll see how it happens, how things go.
Speaking of the body, just we know what you went through last year. How's that body doing this year, and what are your expectations for 2017?
I mean, I ran 200-meter races already, which is more races than I've run in the whole year, so I'm really healthy right now. Since I've been back in Durban, I've been working a lot on just being healthy and getting the rehab stuff right, so I think when the season starts to pick up, everything will start picking up as well.
So best of 10, 10 in the 100. What's your plan for the 100 in 2017 though?
I think it's overdue that I try to run a sub 10. So first half of the season, that's what we're trying to do, run a sub 10 and then pick up on the 200 after that.
Do you feel it can come this year?
Yes, I feel I can come. Getting a lot of work in with my blocks. I've been excited about blocks ever since I got back to Durban, so just work on it more and my top speed will help me get the finish, so I'll be ready.
Now, after years of being in the States, being based in the States, running there, is it good to be back home?
Yeah, it's good to be back home. It kind of feels new because I've been away for so long, but to be back here training with a good group of people, good medical staff, is really good for me.
Right now, the president of the Eastern Province Rugby Union, Cheeky Watson, has resigned. This comes shortly after a decision this weekend by the South African Rugby Union to take the union out of administration. Elections are scheduled for April to elect a new board and office bearers for the union. Watson could not be reached for comment, but his resignation was confirmed by EPRU Administrator Monde Tabata. Last year saw a number of attempts to remove him as president fail. EPRU was placed under liquidation last year as it could not pay the 18 million rand it owed in players' salaries. And South Africa's quest to host a multi-quarter sporting event hangs in the balance. The Minister of Sports, Fikile Mbalula, told a media briefing that Durban's hosting of the Commonwealth Games in 2022 was in jeopardy. Durban was awarded the Games in September 2015 after being the only city to make a confirmed bid. But escalating costs and the Commonwealth Games Federation's expectations of new multi-court facilities could see South Africa lose their hosting rights.
We really wanted the games here, but what we have in terms of our means, we cannot live beyond that. That is an unfortunate situation. So, Cabinet have endorsed our bid, Treasury endorsed our bid, and we went to Durban and the city of eThekwini. We consolidated our approach with regard to financial implications, and given the situation, I think we can't go beyond what South Africa can afford at the present moment, unfortunately. But there is no final decision on that. The decision is coming, but I don't think it looks good in the sense that I can stand here before you confidently that we will host the games, because we couldn't find each other on on the what is this, the financials in terms of. But we'll be able to elaborate that once a decision is made. If the Commonwealth CGF come back to us and say we can host with what we've negotiated with them is fine and good. But if we can't, we can't. And that will be it.
Now, time for a little bit of Formula One news. Kimi Raikkonen put Ferrari on top of the timesheets after the second day of Formula One's pre-season testing. But world champions Mercedes still led the way on the kilometers covered. Now, while Raikkonen ended the day with 108 laps under his belt, the Mercedes pair of Hamilton and new teammate Valtteri Bottas put in 168 laps between them after an untroubled 152 on Monday. Reliability more than the lap times is the main focus at this stage of the year, with the new look wider cars on fatter front and rear tyres and with revamped aerodynamics unveiled only last week. Raikkonen's best lap of 1 minute 20.960 seconds compares to the 2016 preseason best time of 1.22.765. And that is where we'll leave it with the sport. We'll be back shortly at the top of the hour. In fact, a very few minutes. Make sure you stay tuned. You're watching Newsroom. Do not go anywhere.
Now, this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Reprieve.
I'm Dr. Sello Mutaung, and this is Our Talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumile Matez.
My name is Mpo. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel. SABC News.
Prasa. It's 1100 hours Central Africa time. This is the final hour here on Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin. Jumbo Africa. Now, today the focus is on the Competition Commission, planning to prosecute more than a dozen international as well as local banks for alleged collusion in foreign currency trading. So the question we pose to you is, what sanction do you think the banks should face that are found guilty of collusion and manipulating the rand? We'll take a look at those tweets a little bit later, but Kendall, we're also running a poll here.
100%, and it's about one of our more famous sons, Trevor Noah. And we'd like to find out from you, what's the issue with Trevor Noah paying 130 million rand for an apartment in Manhattan, New York?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of money to be spent. Some people say. You also heard someone saying that he's not NSFAS or the government, so he can spend his money. But 86% of you are saying, no, it's not unfair.
They're saying it is unfair that he's been criticised.
Oh, it's unfair that he's been criticised. And 14% says, yes, it's fair. We can criticise him about that.
You know what, Elvis, one of the big things about it is that, like, you know what, if he one day you see him while walking in the street because he doesn't have a car, you'll be like, oh, he wasted all his money. Yeah. Now he's investing. People are complaining.
Yeah, because he'll sell that property. That 130 million will probably be R1 billion by the time he sells it again. But let's take a look at what we have for you today. Headlines. Sasa has reportedly withdrawn its Constitutional Court application for an extended contract for social grants. The Tshwane Executive Mayor Solim Simanga instructs the Pretoria Metro Police to use wheel clamps on the protesting truck drivers' vehicles. And minimum wage and the Health Ombudsman's report on Gauteng health tragedy are expected to feature prominently when the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, replies to oral questions in the National Assembly today. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Well, as we've been doing for the entire morning, we've been crossing over to see what's going on at the match out in Hamilton. Well, New Zealand have won. In fact, their score, they've won by 284-3 in 45 overs. So they gave the Proteas a bit of a clap there.
But, I tell you.
Yeah, it sets it all up for a very nice, very interesting final, so to speak, final match on the weekend. Good morning to you. This is what else we've got for you in the sports today.
I think we can't go beyond what South Africa can afford at the present moment, unfortunately.
The Minister of Sports, Fikile Mbalula, announces that South Africa and Durban might not end up hosting the Commonwealth Games 2022 after all. The budget becomes a sticking point.
Jobodwana has a lot of work to do here, but he's coming through. And also Jobodwana takes and he eases off across the line. 10.21, a little shake of the head there.
After years of studying and training in the United States, South African speedster Anaso Jobodwana is back in the country.
Yeah, it's good to be back home. Still it kind of feels new because I've been away for so long, but to be back here training with a good group of people, good medical staff, is really good for me.
Yes, now that 7-wicket win by New Zealand definitely is going to be a bit of a sore one for the Proteas. But more about all of that a little later in the Sports Bulletin. For now, it is back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. We open our bulletin with breaking news. Social Security Agency SASA has reportedly withdrawn its Constitutional Court application for an extended contract for social grants. The agency has not given the reason of the withdrawal of the application. It comes after it sought to extend the contract of Cash Paymaster Services to pay social grants. Meanwhile, the Social Development Minister is expected to brief the media on SASA's debacle. Yesterday, the ANC and the Democratic Alliance have called for an inquiry into the affairs of the Social Development Department. The country is sitting on a crisis which could cause social upheaval if 17 million grant recipients are not paid by the end of March. Now, Pretoria Metro Police are desperately trying to negotiate with truck drivers who are protesting against Eskom's decision to stop granting them coal transport contracts. Major traffic disruptions are continuing in the city, where routes including the N1, N4, the N14 as well as the R21 were affected. Pretoria motorists are frustrated as they experience major traffic disruptions. trucks had been parked from the Nalmapius turnoff up to Solomon Mashlangu Drive on the N21. Now, earlier we spoke to the organizer of the march who explained what the march was all about.
Today we are here for a demonstration against the IPPs. We are taking a memorandum to the Presidency's office to say that we are against the signing of the IPPs, which is the independent power producer.
All right, why are you against this signing with the independent power producers, and can you just tell us a bit more about them?
If you look at 2010, when the minister was signing the part of the IPPs, the economic rate was at about 5%, and currently the economic rate is about 1.7%. So therefore, the IPPs are much more expensive. You look at the price that Eskom needs to buy it for 2.14 rand, sell it for 83 cents to the consumers, whereas coal is much cheaper at about 63 cents.
So what is the fear? Is the fear loss of jobs? What are your concerns exactly?
Going into IPPs will close mines, and the mines will then lead to scale down the suppliers. The power stations are going to be closed. People are going to lose their jobs. The whole of Mpumalanga is going to be affected. Wheatbank is going to turn into a ghost town because then you'll not be needing mines. And it's not visibly and also it's not something that you can rely on in terms of when we have coal, something that it's underground, something that you cannot take it away. You go and buy a technology that we really do not understand, a technology that will be coming in to take out the businesses.
All right, I see there's loads of trucks here and some your supporters there. Can you just talk to us who is involved in this gathering?
We are the Coal Transporters Forum. We are about 52 companies. We are owning these trucks. We've got our drivers here with us. We've got our employees. We've got any people that are participating in the mining center, the suppliers to Eskom. They are all here. We are speaking in one voice that we cannot sit back and look at the people losing their jobs.
Well, we'll keep you abreast of that story. Now, the case against the Feast Must Fall leader at the Durban University of Technology, Bonginkosi Kanyile, will be heard in the Constitutional Court today. The court will hear an urgent application for leave to appeal against an order of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which dismissed Kanyile's application for special leave to appeal. In February 2016, he was charged with several counts related to an illegal gathering and he was released on a warning. He was then arrested later in 2016 and refused bail in the Durban Magistrates Court. The High Court also dismissed Kanyile's appeal. Kanyile has been in custody for 5 months now. He's the last student still in jail after last year's unrest at campuses nationwide. He's facing charges of incitement to commit violence, possession of explosives, public violence and trespassing. Kanyile will argue whether it is in the interest of justice to deny him bail. He will also argue that the magistrate placed undue emphasis on his alleged past conduct, particularly the criticism that he breached the warnings and the warning conditions of February the 5th, 2016, when he was first arrested. He will also argue that his rights to a fair trial were violated by a failure to conduct an inquiry into whether he had breached the warning conditions. Now, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will today respond to oral questions in the National Assembly. This will be Ramaphosa's first appearance in the first quarter of Parliament this year. Questions are expected to range from the national minimum wage to the Life Isidimeni tragedy that resulted in the deaths of over 100 mentally ill patients. Ramaphosa is also expected to be asked if he was aware of the deployment of excessive security measures during this year's SONA address. The question of whether or not the Deputy President declared any possible conflicts of interest before he assumed responsibility to oversee the turnaround of South African Airways is also expected to be addressed. Ramaphosa will appear again before the National Assembly next week, Thursday. Prasa Board Chairperson Popo Molefe says it's now up to the Transport Department to decide what to do with the parastatal's fired acting CEO Collins Letswalo. Letsoalo is adamant that he'll remain in the position until he receives a letter from the Transport Minister Dipuo Peters to the contrary. The minister is yet to comment about the latest boardroom drama at the passenger rail agency of South Africa, Prasa. The company's board yesterday appointed a new acting CEO after his decision to axe Letsoalo, who Peters had seconded from her department. This followed a damning report that Letsoalo had increased his own salary by 350% to 5.9 million rand. Now that's your news for now. The Human Sciences Research Council, the HSRC, will visit 60,000 South Africans to request their participation in the country's fifth HIV and health study. The study will focus on HIV prevalence, incidence and behavior. The survey was launched in Johannesburg last week and will provide a comprehensive assessment of HIV behavioral status of the people of South Africa. It is undertaken every 3 years to try and help the country to better deal with HIV. From the Human Sciences Research Council, we are joined now by Dr. Mpumelelo Zungu. A very good morning to you, Doctor, and welcome.
Good morning to the viewers and to you. Thank you for inviting us.
Firstly, Doctor, tell us a little bit more about the 5th South African National HIV Prevalence Incident and Behavior Survey.
As you said, the survey is repeated every 3 years, and the focus is really to understand the state of the epidemic within the country. We also track very important indicators, and here we're talking about level of knowledge. We also track incidents. These are new infections that would have happened in the year that we are conducting the study. We also look at factors such as male circumcisions. All these things feed into the prevention response that the country is putting together to respond to the HIV prevalence. So the survey really is some kind of a measure that we now and again come in to assess where we are in terms of our response.
Now, taking into account the previous surveys that was done, what have you achieved so far, and what would be different with this year's survey?
In terms of what has been achieved, I think the first thing that we need to point out is that South Africa is one of the few countries that have repeated this survey. So we are in a better position in that we have relevant information that feeds into the response. We have trend data that is able to be used to see who is affected and where are those people who are affected. In terms of the differences between the previous surveys and the one that we are doing now, this one is a bit advanced. Number one is the largest that we've done. As you said, we are talking about 60,000 individuals that we are targeting. We are also for the first time going to be able to report for 14 districts and report incidence level in those districts. We've added on top of the incidents that we're already doing and also exposure to art, we are looking at viral load, viral suppression, and also drug resistance. So these are the new innovations that we have added into this survey that we'll be doing.
Mm-hmm. How will you reach that target of 60,000? It seems like a steep target to reach.
Well, it is.
So how will you be going about doing that?
Definitely, it will be a difficult a task ahead, but just to let the nation know. Okay. Okay.
Doctor, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
You were asking me about how we're going to reach the 60,000.
Correct.
The country has been, obviously, the country is divided into different provinces. We are targeting all the provinces, 9 provinces. And within the province itself, we'll be going to what we call small area layers, and from there we'll be going to households. So as I said previously, we will be going to just under 22,000 households that are randomly selected. So that is how we will achieve that 60,000 that we're talking about. And when we get into a household, we target everybody. So if a household has 30 people, those 30 people will be invited to participate in our study.
Mm-hmm. Will people be paid to participate, Doctor, or how are you getting them involved?
No, we will not be paying anyone. We are appealing to the nation to provide us with information that helps us with programming. Payment becomes a bit of a problem, you know, an ethical issue around paying people for information that is needed for programming. So we've done the study, as I said, 4 times already, and we've never had to pay participants. But we are appealing to everyone in South Africa who's selected to please open their doors and allow us to come in and give us the information that we need.
Just tell us briefly, how would the survey work? How many questions would you pose to them, and how will you take that detail then back?
We've got a questionnaire which for the first time again we're using a tablet, so we are collecting our data electronically. The questionnaire will take anything between 30 to about 45 minutes for an adult questionnaire. Like I said, we're targeting all ages. Children under the age of 11, that is 0 to 11, we have a parent and guardian questionnaire that will be completed by the parent. And from 12 to 14, we also have another questionnaire, so they will also have to complete, and then we've got 15 and above. Once we've completed the questionnaire, we will then request the participant to provide a small specimen for blood that is taken using something called a dry blood spot. That is then taken to the lab to do all the tests that I explained that we're going to do in the study.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, how will this survey help the country deal with the HIV pandemic that we're sitting with?
I think the most critical thing about this study is that it provides, like I said, it provides us with information. It also allows us to target. The previous survey showed us that ages between women and girls aged 15 to 24 years old were they were highest at risk, and they made up to 25% of new infections in the country. So this study, once it's out, we are able to know where are the problems in terms of the districts where we need to target. Who is affected? Is it young women? Is it young men? Is it older men? So that is how it informs the country's response. And also the country is able to report to UN agencies about how we've been doing in our interventions for HIV and AIDS.
And just briefly, Doctor, is there a sense, though, that we're winning this war against HIV and AIDS?
I think that we've got a long way to go. I wouldn't say that we're not winning, but I think there are places where we are doing well. In terms of our response treatment, we are doing excellent, but we still need to do a lot of work around prevention. We are seeing practices that are, causing us problems around behavior, transactional sex that is fueled by practices such as the blessers, amavuso, and all those practices that tend to put especially young women at risk. So if we can contain the behavioral aspect of the epidemic, I think we will be closer to where we need to be. We need to make sure that those that are HIV positive are initiated on ART. And once they are on ART, they also stay on ART, because ART also is a form of prevention in that once you are virally suppressed, your likelihood of infecting another person is also reduced. So we need a package that deals with all the aspects that are driving the HIV epidemic.
Doctor, I thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the survey.
Thank you very much, and I hope South Africans will embrace us and provide us with the data that we need to inform our country about the state of the epidemic. Thank you so much.
That was Human Sciences Research Council's Dr. Nompumelelo Zungu. To all the blessers out there, stop your blessing, she says.
from the moment you start your day. Good morning, everybody. It is 6 o'clock.
We are there for you.
You want a guarantee from the leadership that we should not be leaders who will steal? I'm prepared to give that guarantee that we should not steal from our people.
We bring your morning into perspective.
This is the reason they keep putting fees up. They're not getting enough money.
We'll make sure that you get the full story.
The police officers from specifically Moffat View Police Station, they support these brothels. What have you found upon your investigations on this matter?
I cannot deny those allegations.
And you can count on the weather team with expertise.
Join us live at 6 a.m. daily.
With the vast experience SABC News have, we are able to gather news and when it happens locally and abroad.
Inflation will be lower this year. Food price inflation, more specifically, could decline.
Current chairperson Dr. Nkosazana Lamini Zuma is not vying for a second term. 5 candidates are eyeing her seat.
The idea of having more countries seems specifically tailored to appeal to the African, Asian and Caribbean confederations who have been underrepresented at World Cups.
Ronaldo lifted the UEFA Champions League before captaining his country to a first international trophy at Euro 2016.
To be informed all the time, stay tuned to News Today, Monday to Friday at 3 p.m.
Let's go back to our main story now, where Pretoria Metro Police are desperately trying to negotiate with truck drivers who are protesting against Eskom's decision to stop granting them coal transport contracts. Now, businesses in the capital has been disrupted as a result of the strike and traffic is out of control. Now, to find out the extent in which the businesses has been disrupted, we now joined on the line by Peter de Tooy of the Tshwane Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Peter, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Yes, Elvis, and good morning to you as well.
Peter, can you tell us how the businesses in Tshwane has been affected by this particular strike?
Yes, Elvis, I'm afraid to say that it's detrimental to our businesses in Pretoria. It would appear that a lot of these demonstrations are politically motivated, and unfortunately in Pretoria we also have the seat of the president. So with his announcement that these contracts will in future not be given to these transport companies, they are now up in arms and they have caused chaos in our traffic, not only the traffic into Pretoria, but traffic going past on the highway, where some of these trucks have actually stopped on the highway and blocking the traffic to get through. And, that causes tremendous lot of losses on income within our businesses in the inner city. I've had many phone calls this morning from guys in the inner city which cannot open their businesses as a result of the people that's in charge of the keys and so on are not at work, and that the workers as well, they have tremendous problems in getting to their place of work. So I'm afraid that in the short and medium term, it's going to be detrimental, these various demonstrations that take place in Pretoria.
Are there any particular business that are directly affected by this, Peter?
Well, a lot will be the eatery places where people come in the mornings and have a breakfast before they go to their place of work. It also has an impact on the National Prosecuting Authority set up where people need to get to court in time. So it's really total chaos that is taking place within the inner city. People can't get to their places for their appointments. People can't open their businesses, so it's a loss on income. And when we have these type of demonstrations, then people from outside the inner city do not wish to go to the inner city when it's on the news that roads are blocked and that we have demonstrations. They'd rather than stay at home or they go and shop in a place outside in the east where it's easier to get to their places of business and to do their business.
Now, we've seen reports coming through from Pretoria today that traffic has been disrupted. What sort of reports are you getting? Are people still in that position right now as we speak, or is the situation being relieved? We also understand that the mayor has asked for these trucks to be clamped.
Yes, what I understand is that the request was that these guys with their trucks would come into the inner city and then basically leave the trucks in Marabastad, and from there they would then be taken up by buses to the union buildings to deliver their paper. I came in at about 9:30 and it was quiet on the highway from the east. There was no traffic involved. So it would appear that it's quiet down, but in the early mornings when people need to get to their offices by 8 o'clock, it was chaos. The highway came to a standstill, and even the people working here at the Tshwane Chamber of Commerce and Industry told me that they just pulled off the highway and waited until the traffic had dispersed. So at this point in time, it would appear that on the main roads leading into Pretoria, there is no problem. And I've also had calls from the inner city to say that the traffic is back to normal. People coming in from the western side to Pretoria had no problem this morning. It was mainly the people using the eastern bypass that had the problem.
So just very briefly, so all the businesses are back to normal as we speak in the CBD or not?
Yes, it sounds as though they're back to business and business as usual.
Peter, thank you so much. That was Peter de Tooy. He is of the Tshwane Chamber of Commerce and Industry, chatting to us about the business side in Pretoria, disrupted this morning by the strike there by the truckers. But let's move on now. The 2017 design Indaba marks Nedbank's third year of celebrating some of the globe's most artistic minds that seek to utilize creativity and inspire innovation that drives sustainable solutions for socio-economic transformation. This year, Nedbank is working with 2 visual artists who will use state-of-the-art creative technology to inspire design Indaba delegates to use their creativity to the good. Now, the artists were both given a brief, and listen to this brief. The brief is reimagine money. Yes, that's the brief. Now, to unpack the brief for us, we joined from our Cape Town studios by Karabo Maletsani. A very good morning to you, Karabo, and welcome.
Morning, Elvis. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm sure that you are too. Did you finish the brief unpacking or imagining money?
Yes, we finally finished last night. So everything is pretty much prepared for everyone to go and experience what we've done.
All right. Now, before everybody can experience it, tell us about reimagining money. That concept. Take us through that.
Yes. So with reimagining money, the approach that I took was looking at being an entrepreneur myself and how I can see how different entrepreneurs around me are kind of moving away from a traditional approach when looking at growing their business. And kind of this reimagining of money takes place in a very interesting way when I look at Johannesburg City. So being a Johannesburg-based illustrator, I've got the privilege of seeing these businesses grow each time. So one of my most favorite entrepreneurs happen to be hairdressers. So looking at hairdressers in the city and how they're reimagining money, we're seeing tremendous growth, and we're seeing a lot of them almost working together, even with the resources they have. So I wanted to take this idea of almost the conventional kind of entrepreneur and how they're managing to use their space really well, use the area of Johannesburg City to bring in clients, to put it in a platform like virtual reality, and almost look at it with the approach that with reimagining money, there's a breakdown of boundaries. So the boundaries that would constrict your business from growing have now been removed with this reimagination when looking at money. So in this virtual reality, you will see common things in a hairdressing salon, almost put in an unconventional way. So you will see hairdressing products floating around you. You will see bubbles and soap on the ground. You will see posters being illuminated with lights, and almost an entire interaction of these products that would be sitting on a table, but with reimagining money, they now have different boundaries that are unconventional in a sense.
I'm trying to paint this picture as you speak to me, and I'm trying to figure it out. Now, it's a pity that we don't have an illustration, but you are getting to that point where you can actually showcase this for us. So what were some of the challenges that you encountered working on this particular project?
So to give you a little bit of background with how virtual reality works, usually as an illustrator, I work with 2D and 3D platforms. But virtual reality is fully immersive. So I'm not only drawing on a flat piece of paper, but I am drawing all around me. So one person that would put on this virtual reality software and equipment would be able to see things in front of them, behind them, all around, look at things from different perspectives as well. And working with that, it was almost an easy way out working 2D because I'd never have to think with how the different angles of a product looks. So I just kind of concentrate on a head-on approach. But with 4D, there's no hiding behind that. You really have to consider the different angles that a person can look at because they can scale it up and down and walk around the object that I've drawn. So it meant a lot of concentration, but it broke down the boundaries completely because now I could create a fully immersive illustration, which is what I've always wanted to do.
That sounds absolutely fantastic, but working on the concept, has it changed the way that you view and work with money?
It really has, because I was just looking at how investing in creativity has brought on this new product that is changing how illustrators are creating work. So if something as conventional as a bank can look at creativity and change how creators do something, it's almost inspired me to look at how a bank could help me do the same for myself. So looking at how conscious they were of changing the boundaries of creating art has really made me interested to see how I could change the boundaries when planning on growing my business and investing and putting money in different places, how unconventional their advice for me would also be.
The hairdressers that you illustrated, have they benefited from this, or will they perhaps benefit in the future in terms of your illustration?
I think it's creating more awareness in a sense. So kind of highlighting hairdressers as a really great point of looking at entrepreneurs that are making use of what they have to grow. Imagine if you backed them with great advice, with more investments into their business, how far it could grow. So it was almost to kind of highlight that hairdressers are a great entrepreneurial kind of person to invest in. So possibly in the long term, if people look at the artwork from that perspective, hairdressing entrepreneurs could benefit in that way.
Now, what role does art then play in fostering and promoting socioeconomic transformation in a country like ours, South Africa, which is so diverse?
I think in our country, a lot of people are becoming more and more conscious of art and conscious of the influence that art has. So having something like the Design Indaba creating awareness around these things, it almost gives people a visual perspective of how we can get from where we are now into a better place. So almost putting a visual approach to that potential kind of helps people see that it is something reachable. So I think events like the Design Indaba are extremely important because we portray the idea in a very visual sense. And if people could see what the benefits are in a visual and creative way, I think people are more open towards changing or investing in it in a sense.
Well, we're seeing a couple of pictures coming in from the Design Indaba right now, but does your concept of reimagining money achieve that goal of reaching and promoting that socio-economic transformation that we seek?
I definitely think it does, because with reimagining money, I think moving it from a conventional sense is really going to be kind of igniting thought in people's minds. So looking at how entrepreneurs like hairdressers could reimagine money, people would probably see how far they've grown with what they have currently, and it's almost like looking at the potential for growth if we had to partner with them to reimagine money. So it's almost speaking towards the potential that this business could have for immense growth, because with the little that they've had, they've managed to grow quite immensely. So imagine with the partnering like reimagining of money, what the potential could be.
That's an absolute fantastic piece. Now, how long have you been working on this project? Because you did indicate that you finished last night.
Yes. So it is very new technology, and myself and the other illustrator, Daniel, have never worked on it before. So we needed some training before creating the artwork. So we had a day of training on Thursday, and we've had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to create the artwork.
And tonight, everybody would be able to see it?
Yes, actually from this afternoon.
Yes. Well, the best of luck to you and the team, and all the best at the Design Indaba.
Thank you so much, Elvis.
That was a very excited Karabo Moletsani, a participant at the 2017 Design Indaba. Fantastic idea that she's coming forth with, don't you think? We'll take a break. We'll be right back with your sports news with Kevin Wakeford.
SABC News brings the world closer to you.
Sherman Briceby's SABC News, Washington.
Jack Whitehead, SABC News in London.
Mzandi Lembejo, SABC, Sochi, Russia.
I'm Sarah Kimani signing off from Kigali for the SABC News.
Other than that, I've enjoyed every single moment of it.
Crisaldo Lewis, SABC News at Wits University.
SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Technology is all around us and some can't live without it.
There's also the problem of internet connectivity.
I was speaking to a robot.
It also makes a few governments panic and therefore they block the internet from time to time.
They just banned the internet, which is the source of my livelihood.
For African technology and social media news, join me, Phumelele Zondi, on Network every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Welcome back. The Design Indaba out in Cape Town is sure to attract a lot of eyes after that interview. Good morning. My name is Kevin Wakeford. It is time for the sports. Now, South Africa's quest to host a multi-coded sporting event hangs in the balance. The Minister of Sports, Fikile Mbalula, told a media briefing that Durban's hosting of the Commonwealth Games in 2022 was in jeopardy. Durban was awarded the Games in September 2015 after being the only city to make a confirmed bid. But escalating costs and the Commonwealth Games Federation's expectations of new multi-code facilities could see South Africa lose their hosting rights.
We really wanted the Games here, but you know, what we have in terms of our means, we cannot live beyond that. That is an unfortunate situation. So, Cabinet have endorsed our bid, Treasury endorsed our bid, and we went to Durban and the city of eThekwini. We consolidated our approach with regard to financial implications, and given the situation, I think we can't go beyond what South Africa can afford at the present moment, unfortunately. But there is no final decision on that. The decision is coming, but I don't think it looks good in the sense that I can stand here before you confidently that we will host the games, because we couldn't find each other on the what is this, the financials in terms of. But we'll be able to elaborate that once a decision is made. If the Commonwealth CGF come back to us and say we can host with what we have negotiated with them, is fine and good. But if we can't, we can't. and that will be it.
Right now, the president of the Eastern Province Rugby Union, Cheeky Watson, has resigned. This comes shortly after a decision this past weekend by the South African Rugby Union to take the union out of administration. Elections are scheduled for April to elect a new board and office bearers for the union. Watson could not be reached for comment, but his resignation was confirmed by EPRU Administrator Monde Tabata. Last year saw a number of attempts to remove him as president fail. EPRU was placed under liquidation last year as they could not pay the 18 million rands it owed in player salaries. And now to Formula One, where Kimi Raikkonen put Ferrari on top of the timesheets after the second day of Formula One's pre-season testing, but world champions Mercedes still led the way on kilometers covered. While Raikkonen ended the day with 108 laps under his belt, the Mercedes pair of Hamilton and crew teammate Valtteri Bottas put in 168 laps between them after an untroubled 152 on Monday. Reliability more than the lap times is the main focus at this stage of the year, with the new look wider cars on fatter front and rear tyres and with revamped aerodynamics unveiled only last week. Raikkonen's best lap of 1 minute 20.96 seconds compares to the 2016 pre-season best time of 1 minute 22.765. And in tennis, top seed and world number 1 Andy Murray returned to action for the first time since his early defeat in Australia, beating Tunisia's Malik Jaziri. Murray, who suffered a bout of shingles since losing early in the Australian Open, was relatively untroubled as he set up a second round against Spain's Guillermo Garcia Lopez. He recovered from losing serve early in this match and posted a 6-4, 6-1 victory against Jaziri in the Dubai Open. Meanwhile, world number 3 Stan Wawrinka fell at the very first hurdle in the Dubai Open, beaten 7-6, 6-3 by 77th ranked Bosnian Damir Djumur. The 24-year-old Djumur, making his debut at the Dubai tournament, recovered from losing the first 3 games to outplay the second seed and 3 times Grand Slam champion. Swiss Wawrinka was playing his first match since losing to Roger Federer in the Australian Open semi-finals. He will play next Spain's Marcel Granole in the next match. And the one-day international series between New Zealand and South Africa will go down to the wire. The Kiwis thrashed the Proteas by 7 wickets in the 4th and penultimate match in Hamilton this morning. The Black Caps restricted the visitors to 279 for the loss of 8 wickets in their 50 overs and reached their target with 5 overs to spare.
Beautiful scenes of Seddon Park.
South Africa won the toss and elected to bat first on a slow wicket at Seddon Park. It was, however, a nightmare start. The Proteas lost opener Quinton de Kock with the first ball he faced in the first over, out for a duck. Hashim Amla and Faf du Plessis then steadied the ship. Amla contributed 40 runs, du Plessis added 67.
Outstanding.
Although the South African wickets fell regularly, captain A.B. de Villiers got stuck in. Together with Wayne Parnell, they flexed their muscles. The two reached their 8th wicket 50-run partnership in just 14 minutes and off just 19 deliveries.
It's getting really messy for New Zealand now.
De Villiers was brilliant as he smashed an unbeaten 72 off 59 balls. Parnell made 29 off 12 deliveries. Run out off the last ball of the innings with the total on 279.
Parnell will be run out by a country mile, but it doesn't matter.
Fast bowler Kagiso Rabada then struck early for the Proteas, getting rid of opener Dean Brownlee for 4 in the 3rd over. Captain Kane Williamson was trapped leg before wicket by spinner Imran Tahir for 21, but opener Martin Guptill was unstoppable.
Get it that way. Will not get it that way. 6 more for Guptill.
Man of the match Guptill was a thorn in the Proteas bowler's side from the get-go, hitting the South Africans all over the park. He was supported well by Ross Taylor. They put on a massive 180 runs for the 3rd wicket before Tahir made the breakthrough. Taylor out for 66. It was, however, too little too late. Guptill steered his side to victory, finishing unbeaten on a brilliantly played 180, now the highest ODI score by a New Zealander against the Proteas. Guptill's innings included 15 fours and 11 sixes.
And New Zealand, in the most emphatic fashion, have levelled the series.
We struggled to string partnerships together with the ball in hand. It was really difficult to get a bit of momentum going. And then, yes, at the end, you can always say it was a fantastic knock by Martin. He was unstoppable tonight. He hit the ball very cleanly. But there are areas where we need to improve, and we'll have a look at that.
It will be played in Auckland on Saturday. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Definitely sets up for a really cool weekend when we can see how the Proteas come back from that and try and win that 5-match ODI series. That is where we leave it with the sports today. You've been watching Newsroom. My name is Kendall Makamate. I will be back tomorrow with the rest of the team, and I'll leave you with the weather forecast. This is Simple.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's get that weather update, and let's first start of all take a look at what's going on in the northern parts of the Reprieve Strip here. Here we're seeing a low pressure system which again is drawing in a lot of moisture through that Central African region all the way from Malawi in the east towards that western interior here. It's linking up with a low pressure system which is now passing by South Africa's southeastern coastline, and that of course is bringing in some rainfall to the area. Unfortunately, it's not bringing any rainfall to Cape Town or the surrounding areas, which was where we really need it. But yeah, like I say, bringing in rainfall to the rest of South Africa, which we can't be unhappy about. Into tomorrow, very similar conditions. It's concentrated around Lesotho, though, about a 60% chance of showers there. Showers and thunder showers developing through Central Africa and Rwanda and moving down towards Malawi, into Zambia, and then down and towards the Reprieve Strip. Again, that low pressure system drawing in a lot of that moisture in the air there. Taking a look in a little bit more detail what's going on in your city today. Cape Town, another dry one, 29-degree maximums for today. Wind speeds are at about 25 to 30 kilometers per hour. Showers and thunder showers forecast throughout most of the rest of the country, but most of it is going to take place between the afternoon and the evening, really. Some passing showers through that central interior. Our neighbouring states expecting a warm one. Gaborone peaks at 28 degrees and Windhoek a 28-degree high as well. Some showers in Windhoek, about a 60% chance of showers there for the capital. So great news for the area there as well. And Reprieve Strip expecting showers as well. That, of course, extends further towards Harare, towards the west there, 24 degrees. Kinshasa's at 33 degrees and Brazzaville in the Congo there, 32. It's going to be a bit of a rainy one in Kigali at 25 degrees, but unfortunately, again, showers not quite making it to the areas we needed. It's going to be a dry one in Nairobi. It's going to be a dry one in Addis Ababa, 23-degree high there for Addis. Now, of course, a high-pressure system moving along the northern coastline there is mitigating the effects of these winter low-pressure systems. And, of course, we've just moved into northern hemisphere spring. So this is going to become an all-too-common appearance. We're going to see a lot less rainfall over the northern regions of Africa's coastlines, and a lot more we're going to see, well, hopefully, we expect those showers and thunder showers to extend a little bit further north from Central Africa up in towards Ethiopia and the surrounding areas. So as we progress into northern hemisphere summer, that's what we're going to see. It's rainfall's going to move a little bit further north. So for today, though, expecting isolated showers for the area. For tomorrow, very similar conditions. Those isolated showers extending into Ethiopia, not quite reaching Eritrea. But of course, it is going to be a little bit of a wet one along the southern coastlines there of West Africa. Again, another dry one over that northern region. Now, in terms of your temperatures, very quickly, I'll drive 24 degrees and temperatures along the northern coastline fairly mild at about 18 in Benghazi. This is where we're going to leave your weather for now. Stay tuned.
Gift of the Giver says it wants to resolve the issue diplomatically and amicably so. It still believes it could be a case of mistaken identity.
OPEC members Nigeria and Libya, both suffering setbacks in production, were given exemptions.
In 2016, the airline was voted the leading airline in Africa by passengers in the World Travel Awards. Currently transports more than 160 tons of cargo.
She won the Sun International Ladies Challenge, the Supersport Ladies Challenge and the 2016 Chase to the Investec Cup for Ladies Final.
Stay tuned to News Today, Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m. here on SABC News.
from the moment you start your day. Good morning, everybody. It is 6 o'clock.
We are there for you.
You want a guarantee from the leadership that we should not be leaders who will steal. I'm prepared to give that guarantee that we should not steal from our people.
We bring your morning into perspective.
This is the reason they keep putting fees up. They're not getting enough money.
We'll make sure that you get the full story.
The police officers from specifically Moffat View